Welcome in, everybody. Today we're doing another podcast with our guest, Cody, a fellow Star Citizen enjoyer. Still, we'll see. But no, fellow Star
Yeah.
Citizen streamer. Today we're going to be talking about everything that's been happening with 4.7, how it's felt, where it's at now, the fact that we're in a free fly, talk about the different things that showed up in 4.7, and then we'll wrap it up with talking about some of the things that are coming up in 4.8, notably fleet battles, which I think is the biggest thing to talk about for that. But before we get there, we have a whole bunch of stuff to talk about in 4.7. So yeah, I guess let's just jump right into it. So 4.7's been out for what? Almost 3 weeks now? Over 2 weeks
Uh,
in live?
three 3 weeks sounds right. 3 weeks feels right, I guess. If we're counting this last week, I don't know because it came out middle of the week or whatever. I'd have to figure out what the date is, but yeah, it's been out for a couple of weeks now, and that's all it's taken to get me a little salty about it.
Oh, okay. So, but what was your initial reaction when it dropped? Were you happy to see it drop? Were you looking forward to it?
Oh, definitely was looking forward to it. Had tried it in the PTU like one time. Went and did a Rock Breaker event. Was super happy about it. Was excited about crafting. I didn't get to experiment in the PTU with that, but I have crafted an item or a couple of items in the PU, and like I was initially excited about it because you had a multifaceted mission, right? And then with crafting felt like it gave you a reason to go do the industrial gameplay. So mining and going and refining the material. Yeah, with those things, it really brought like everything together. There was a reason to go and grind the game and grind industrial gameplay rather than just for strictly economy reasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was super excited about that, and I was looking forward to really hopping in and doing all of those things. And I had for a while, but it became kind of grueling right off of the bat.
So
So
before we get into that, did
mhm.
you did you do Rock Breaker and did you like it?
I did Rockbreaker. I loved Rockbreaker. Rockbreaker is another one of those missions like ASD or like the Kiwi Station Van Duel mission where it's like I said, is multifaceted. It brings a lot of other the aspects of gameplay together. So with Rockbreaker, you're going in, you're putting together this big device, right? You're doing multiple things with like your multi tool to get to certain areas. You're fighting enemies who do feel challenging now, which is really nice. And that's been for a little while now. Enemies feeling challenging, but yeah, it's a fun event with friends. You fly in, really cool aesthetically. Flying into the facility feels fresh and new. The puzzles are fun, and it takes some time to get it complete. And there's tiers on how much you want to complete, and the reward at the end. I don't know if it really feels like a good reward at the end right now.
Yeah,
The
my
times,
biggest thing on Rock Breaker is I think, like you said, the whole experience is super enjoyable.
hmm
But oh man, and mining's something we're going to talk about after this. But I, it, I think the problem with the reward is what's going on with mining right now, for me at least personally, is this 1 to 1,000 quality rating range we have,
yeah,
which just makes it really frustrating. And then you double that with the fact that refining rates are so low
hmm
that it just doesn't feel rewarding for me because you then realize, well, okay, wait, if I want to make an entire thing of armor, whatever you need the civilian for, I forget exactly what you need it for. um,
hmm
I've got to now do this event I don't know how many times because if you're doing it solo, that's one thing, but most of the time people are going to be doing it with friends, at least one other person, if not in a bigger group. So got to think you're splitting stuff up like that. If you're an org, then you're running that so often. Like you have
yeah,
to run it 10 times back to back. One thing I
yeah.
will say that's positive about the Rockbreaker release that we haven't really seen in other releases of this kind of an event is it works. It actually works from beginning to end. I've never had a problem completing it. And I've run it almost 10 times, 8 or 10 times.
Have you been doing the exclusive one?
Yeah.
And I kind of agree with Bird on that for now. So with the exclusive one, you're running into an instance. When we
Yeah.
had experienced it for the first time, we actually got 30Ks at the beginning of it because it was pushing us to a new server.
So it's
And
not
so
instanced, actually. Instancing is
it,
not in yet. It is.
sh-
I am sure that they did talk
okay,
about it in
okay.
the Star Citizen Live or whatever it was with Benoit, and the instancing will come in once we get the Siege of Warrington instance, and that's something
Mhm.
that they're trying to tie in with dynamic meshing. But what we have right now is essentially they send you somewhere where they're not going to send someone else, but there is the chance of coming across somebody if they are really dedicated to finding you.
Okay.
Um,
Well, if that's the case, then um, I'm rather impressed. Color me impressed with that, because yeah, it's worked from front to back. But I agree with Orbs for now because every time they introduce a new mission, that new mission will work. The ones that are prior to that, so like the QV stations and the ASD mission, you go and they're broken in some way.
oh,
Typically,
they haven't
you run
worked
into
in.
some issue.
But see, that one never worked perfectly when it came out. For example, the QV, it it had its moments. You were able to do it. You know, if you were dedicated and ran it 3 times, you could probably succeed 1 or 2 times. But
Mhm.
there's was always one instance where something would break, and typically in that one, it's either the freight elevators or it was the bosses not spawning. So you couldn't get the key card data that you needed to advance and complete the contract and get that
Yeah,
juicy 1 million. Um,
the issues that Orbs and I ran into because him and I had that mission down. We ran that mission lots of times. Initially, it was we found a few cards for the bonus warehouse, and
mhm.
then there was nothing. Like we literally didn't find anything.
Yeah, I
And
remember that.
then they patched it, and then it was just the spawn rates was crazy. You would run into a stack of 15 of those slates. So it was broken in that way. We have experienced the issue with the freight elevators. The other was just not spawning, like you said, the bosses or typically the guy hanging on the wall in the outside station. Yeah, I still have cards as well, Orbs.
I got a bunch.
But yeah, I got it. And you can't stack them, unfortunately. But so they take up a bunch of space on the inventory, which gets into another
Oh
issue
yeah,
that I
we'll get
have
to that.
with the
But
game. But yeah, so that one did have its issues, but me and Orbs were able to run it fairly consistently. There was nothing that I mean, other than the bosses being an issue for a little bit there, it had run from beginning to end pretty consistently for a while. ASD, I'm
they had some
pulling memory up on
issues.
that. There was a couple of issues, but for the most part, we were able to run that several times. Um,
ASD, the first initial release of it, the first set of missions worked pretty well. It's the
mhm,
second set of missions that were a bit more intricate and complex that I think started
yeah.
to break. But relative, I mean, you are right. Overall, when a new event comes out, that event tends to work relatively well. The one that started the entire chain of, oh, we need to fix things, I think was Supply or Die last year, when it was
Yeah.
like, we
Oh,
can't use your elevators or anything that you want us to do, so what now?
yeah. That forced them to change the elevators to be like default up for a while there, or whatever it was. I remember that event, and that event was, at first it was everybody just buying the materials, and then there was no materials left, and you were ending up with people sitting at the kiosk right there at the beginning, in line trying to buy materials or just waiting for the materials to refresh and pop up. And then you had the others that were going and grabbing the stuff. The issues with the freight elevators, you had a bunch of derelict ships out at those stations, and sometimes only one of the freight elevators was working. It was a mess once everybody started trying to do it, and then you ended up with a bunch of freight that you couldn't get rid of. You
Yeah.
know,
But all right,
so
going. We'll get back to everything that's frustrating us. But
Hmm.
getting back to the 4.7 and what came out with it, obviously the biggest thing is crafting, right?
Yeah.
So how much did you craft?
I crafted a couple of weapons thanks to Orbs in chat. He gave me some Karenite, and so I made a parallax rifle for myself, which was all. I think all of the stuff I used was over 900 or very close to 900. So it was a high quality parallax. It had plus about 22% damage. It was like 21 and a half. And then for the recoil statistics or stats, it was like 30%. So minus 30% in recoil and felt recoil and all the stuff that go along with that. And then I had a sight on there and a laser. So the laser takes 12.5% spread away, and then the sight took an additional like 10.5% recoil away. So literally, when I was holding the button, I didn't have to touch the mouse. I could lift the mouse up, and it would stay steady. Like there was no recoil on the weapon, and even at first, it was going down a little bit until the lightning came in. When it starts to heat up, it would actually start to rise a little bit. But that thing was absolutely dead accurate. It was actually a pretty cool parallax rifle, and I was having lots of fun with that for the little bit of amount of time that I got to use it. Then the other weapon I made was another a parallax for an org mate, Chief. Shout out to Chief over. You'll see him typically playing with devils, but he's in the Free Belters org with me, and he's just an awesome guy. And we built him one, and so he can go out there and slay with that. But unfortunately, mine met the demise of a Star Citizen bug, and that is kind of what had soured me on the game currently, just because of the amount of time it takes to, and it gets into the whole crafting scene right now, is the amount of time it takes to go out, get your ship, go and find the materials, refine the materials, then either get the materials back to your home base or
Yeah,
maybe
we're
use a
gonna.
crafting machine with you there. But
I was gonna
yeah,
talk about that with the mining changes that came into 4.7 because that's another big
hmm
thing that came in. So I think the three biggest things are Rock Breaker, and then the
hmm
biggest are crafting and the mining changes. Um, how I mean, so you did do a lot of mining. How do you feel about the actual breaking of the rocks without talking about like ore quality, like the actual act of mining? Does that feel better or does it feel about the same?
it feels way worse. So mining is technically the same, but a lot of the higher materials that you're finding are rocks that are almost impossible to crack unless you have a team of people with you. So that means it leans heavily into org play or, just group play. So the person that's just trying to go and get themselves some materials by themselves may not find a decent amount, or may find a rock that has good material in it, but they can't break it with their prospector or their mole or whatever device they're using. Even in case we had a fully upgraded mole with us, three people, and we literally had to land on a rock or on a surface next to the rock, nose up against the rock, just to crack it. And in my early experiences with this event and in finding materials, every time we found a high quality rock and we cracked it, we would get 30K and push to another server, thus losing that rock. So
Really
yeah,
interesting.
it happened over and over. Yeah. So in that particular case, we had finally got close enough, cracked the rock. We had to crack all the other pieces of that rock, and we were going to do that. Actually, no, we had cracked all the pieces but one. Went to crack the last one, and that's when the server crashed on us. In that case, and I can't remember. It was some level 900, high 900 material that was in that rock, and so we were looking forward to getting that.
Were you doing most of your mining in Stanton, Pyro, or Nyx?
Just a mix. We didn't really do any mix or Nix. It was mostly in Stanton or Pyro. It just really depended on the material type we were looking for, and so we were looking up what planets have what and going to those. So in my case, I needed tungsten, gold, and Karenite. And luckily, Bert had done the Hathor site prior and still had Karenite in his inventory. And he actually had some high quality stuff. He had one over 900 and then one close to 900 that we used for Chief to make his. But all I had to do was find some high ranking gold and some high ranking tungsten, and that took me uh I don't know, 20 hours or so
I was going to ask,
to
how
find.
much time did you have to spend mining to find the high quality stuff? How many rocks did you have to skip?
Oh, hundreds of rocks is what it felt like to skip. Um, the amount of time just to do that, and then I mean, because this is over the course of the last couple of weeks. I just lost my parallax Wednesday, I think it was. So I was only able to use it. So if we're saying this event has been 3 weeks, it took me 2 weeks to get the materials in my time. Like I've got a full time job. I stream for 3 hours, 3 times a week. So in the time that I was able to put into the game, it took me those 2 weeks to get the materials, refine them at the stations closest to them, or which ones had bonuses, and then get them back to my home base, and then craft the item, and then unfortunately lose it. So that was a lot of time invested for something to be completely wiped away. And like I said, this is why I've kind of the game. I'm soured on the game, and I've stepped away, and I've actually uninstalled the game and installed something else, and I'm playing that right now because I needed the space. So
So, all right, let's try to objectively for a second. And I guess the only thing that really means when we're talking about this games is assume that things would work and you're not dealing with bugs or 30Ks or server errors and stuff like that. Do you
hmm
think what we got is positive? If it were all to work properly, do you think it's positive?
in my brain with a 1.0 scenario, and like hey, we're not going to be wiping. You're going to have time to build all this stuff. Maybe it makes sense in the grind aspect. Crafting currently isn't exactly what they crafting isn't what they had originally planned it to be. It's much more than that, and it eliminates the need for NPC vendors. So it's not like it's not like I need an NPC vendor to go and buy a parallax from. I can just craft it myself. So that in turn makes the game feel a bit more dead in a sense because I'm completely pretty much self-reliant on these items. And then two, sorry, I got a little sidetracked there with that. But two, it's so given the amount of time, if there was no wipes, maybe it makes sense. But right now, the time that I have to put in is more laborious than it is rewarding, if that makes sense. I'm having to put in a lot of time for somebody that works a full time job that wants to come home and play video game and have fun. This isn't a fun mechanic. This takes too much time. It takes too much work to go and craft something. Um, so I don't entirely agree with it. I think SC has gone down too much of the simulation path of things and lost its sight in the fact that it's a video game. It's meant to be fun and entertaining. Um, so therefore, I think they need to tweak the system a bit. I'm having to pass up too many rocks. I'm having to put in too much time to get the resources that I want at the level I want to craft what I want. So, yeah, I don't necessarily agree with how it's implemented currently.
So that's something that I think a lot of the community has started to voice is just how it's two things really. It's the insane amount of time that it takes to mine anything valuable and the other thing that I've now people are starting to realize as an issue
Oh,
is the amount of inventory space all this is taking and how much of a
well,
clutter that has become.
yeah. So let me add to that because sure, this isn't much of an issue right now because of tier zero looting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it or tier zero gear. Like I don't lose that item if I die, right?
Right.
Now let's say if they go to the system that they're talking about where you lose that item. Somebody comes and kills me or I die and I lose that item. I spent 20 hours to get this rifle or this gear, whatever it is, this item that I wanted to craft, and now I die and I have to start at square one again. So I have to wait for my ship to respawn. I have to get in my ship. I have to go back out. I have to skip hundreds of rocks, find the material, mine the material, hopefully, or when I find the material, hopefully I can mine the material, right? Um, Otherwise, I start at, step two again, start looking for another rock. I find that rock, I mine it. I have to take that material back. I have to refine it. I have to wait for the refining process. And then is that refined at my home base or is that refined at another station? Then I have to transport it. I get it home. I can craft it. I got to wait 3 minutes to craft the item. I get the item. I get out of my hangar. Somebody smashes into me and kills me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, whatever it is, like, it is way too grindy. There's a lot of RNG. It's RNG on top of RNG, right? Give us some. The gear needs insurance. I agree with that. But like there needs to be there's a lot missing and it's too much of a grind right now, and luckily it's not too much of an issue if you die because you don't lose the item, but in my case I absolutely lost the item due to whether you want to call it desync or some background issue because we got this new UI for the inventory and look, it looks cool and it seems to work okay at times, but
Forgot
there's
about
still
that.
back end issues. There's still tons of back end
Well, that
issues.
was, you got to think of it as it's been reskinned, not reworked,
Yeah,
because
exactly. Well,
the
they
back end
were
issues are obviously still there.
from what I remember, they were talking about the new inventory system would be when they implemented it, wouldn't just be a visual upgrade. It would be an entire back end
Well,
change.
I'm not 100% sure on that, but like it's the other thing is we have to remember that a lot of this stuff was, and I'm not exactly sure on the UI rework. I don't think that was slated for it. But for example, this
Hmm.
transportation refactor we're waiting on in 4.8 um, originally was slated for 4.0. Just I like to remind
Hmm.
people of that. 'Cause just another one of those things that kind of unfortunately
Well,
got kicked down the line. But the problem is the transpo. Some of these refactors that we need that are systems that have been in the game for way too long and that have had issues for a long time and that are old code that are now fighting with the newer, meshing code, their updated database, the replication layer, all these things that it's trying to communicate with. Like, unfortunately, we just continuously see things crash, or sorry, not crash, but we see things take way too long to communicate with each other, which creates this really long desync with items going into your backpack or out of your backpack into local inventory or into your ship, whatever it might be. And it's really frustrating. And I know some people, unfortunately, when 4.7 dropped, had, the I lost a lot of my items again problem. They had the
hmm
I lost some ships again, and it's kind of luck of the draw for everyone on each patch whether you're going to be fortunate enough to get everything back. This is the first patch for me in 3 patches that I actually had my stuff when I started. The 2 to 3 previous patches, it's either I couldn't play, my entirety of my inventory was gone for 24 hours, including my pledge items,
hmm
or couldn't log in, was locked out. Like, so I think to go back to the question of is this all positive for Star Citizen right now, like, I definitely hear everything you're saying and I agree with so much of it. But I think if you, like you said originally, if you're looking at it from like a 1.0 lens, this is all stepping stones towards that, right? And
hmm
what's going to be really, really important is whether or not they listen to the frustration and the feedback. So I'm hoping there's another survey. If anybody knows of a survey going on right now in Star Citizen, send that link because I will
So,
totally answer that.
all right. So this is what I want to get into. Partially, you kind of touched on it. So, the issue council that they have,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's a weighted issue council, and I can completely understand that. And the issue I have with it is, I guess it's weighted system. So you have to wait on somebody like somebody reported their crafted item vanishing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I add to that. But in order to get considered, it needs six more people. At least last I checked, it needed six more people before they even consider looking at that bug,
Yep.
which is to me is astounding. Like, hey, and right now there's CIG. You remember a couple videos ago, Jared called what's his face and was like, "Hey, can you make a post about desync?" And the thing I have with the community about desync is an inherent problem of online gaming,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have a latency between you and the server, and desync happens in various ways. But people are chalking a lot of issues up with the game to desync. They're just calling it desync when it's actual issues with, the spaghetti coding that they have, just the issues of tech debt, the stuff over the years of them implementing things, those people moving on, and then somebody not knowing how it was coded and then having to go back and deal with these
Well, that's
things.
exactly what happened with
Um,
freight elevators.
Yes, and that's what's going to happen with the transportation system that they're having to go back and rework. And there's going to be issues, and they want it tested and tested and tested. And the issue I have with a lot of this stuff is I feel that CIG doesn't respect our time and our investment in the game. I see where the resources are going. The resources are going into the ship team because they're constantly pumping out ships, right? And I understand that keeps the lights on. That keeps the production going. All right, I get that. And the ship team has been killing it. These ships that have been coming out have been awesome. Well, what I want to see though is I want to see them to respect our time, and instead of making an April Fool's, video and wasting time and resource on that. Well, I get, you need to have fun at work and stuff, but them in that video poking fun at 30Ks and us still dealing with 30Ks interrupting our gameplay and wasting our time. Like, hey, maybe put some resource into fixing the code so you don't end up with these issues that end up wiping someone's 20 hours, whatever it is, into the game and setting them back at square one. So that's my huge issue is I don't see a concerted effort in that. We had the year of stability. Things still are not stable.
We had
And
six
there's
months of stability,
patchwork. Yeah. There's
which, hey,
patchwork.
was 6 months that I will gladly have back anytime.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I was thinking about it over the last few days. That was when I played the most, I think, Star Citizen. That's when I was the most into it, is when it was a bit more stable. And then the problem, at the time, which is why I always thought it was funny, a couple of years ago, like right in 318 or 319, people were like, stop throwing in features, just clean up the game, and you can release it as is and everybody will love it. And it was like, no, that's such a bad statement, because the game was
Mm-hmm.
empty. And even though now, 2 years later, it's got more stuff, the reality is, if the game were to were to function properly, we would all go through this content in a month, 2 months tops, and then you'd be there going, okay, when's the next thing? And unfortunately,
Mm-hmm.
there isn't enough content dumps with every patch, even though there is still, comparatively to before, a lot of content coming in. But that still doesn't mean that, like, per like industry standards, on a lot of games that you see come out with these major updates 2-3 times a year, there's not as much content. A lot of what we get, and you've touched on this, is busy work. And
Mm-hmm.
the busy work slash the grind is not appreciated. And Fat Daddy makes this point, which is he doesn't want to craft anything until there's no more wipes or the game's more solid. And Tonic said, I don't want to craft something and lose it, just like you had to go through.
Mm-hmm.
They've done this in the past for PTUs where they lowered the rep requirement. If you guys want us to test this out, because that's what we're doing in live, don't kid yourself.
Exactly.
We are
Yep.
still testing in live. Everything is a test. Just because they
Mm-hmm.
slap the word live in front of it doesn't actually mean that it's supposed to be, comparable to another game's stable releases or live versions or whatever. Um, Right now, the RNG combined with the clutter, combined with the desync and the problems with inventory, just create a very frustrating environment. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where I've kind of been at is, and I've messaged him so many times, because there was a good moment where, like, him and I were playing a lot, and I was trying to do stuff in Rockbreaker and contested zones. And we touched on this very briefly at the very beginning, is right now the problem with 4.7, or just Star Citizen in general, with where it's at, is there's a lot of little issues. For example, we talked about, we have, both agreed on Rockbreaker right now works. It's really enjoyable. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's great, but every other previous world event we have access to is kind of broken. QVs, I haven't been able to successfully do a QV in 2 patches. Um, and yeah, I could try 10 more times and I might be able to get a, 2 3, maybe if I'm lucky, 4 to work. But why do I
Hmm.
have to dedicate that amount of time to trying to get this one thing to work? I tried to
Yeah.
go back and do an ASD solo immediately. I didn't even realize it was somebody in chat who had to point it out. It was Lamad. He called it out. He's like, "Oh, you need to restart." And I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "Look, your quest isn't updating with the objectives." And I was like, "Shit, you're right." Um, so
That's where I was. I was doing an ASD solo, and it wasn't updating, and that's where I lost my parallax. Was mid fight, mid firefight, and it was just I needed to heal. I stepped away. I forgot I didn't have the healing module on my multi tool, so I had gone through my multi tools, and then I pulled out my med pen. I stuck myself with the med pen. I tried to get back to my parallax. My guy pulled out. You see him pull forward. He's got the med pen in hand. Multi tool comes in hand. Parallax is gone out of my inventory. Just gone. Not on the ground. Not anywhere around. Just gone for no reason. So somewhere between my client and the server client, and the server says, "No, you don't have this item anymore. It's gone." Right? You dropped it, or it
which
just
is
doesn't
weird
exist.
because this game is very much client driven, which is why we have so many problems with cheating. Is it is the client that dictates a lot of what's going on. It's not the server. The server does a
Yeah.
check, and so yeah, I mean, I've been learning a lot over the last couple of years about coding,
Well, client side
networking,
versus,
yeah,
yeah,
client
server
side versus
side.
server side, and then just, I was showing you earlier, just trying to teach myself how to use certain tools. So I'm
Mhm.
getting myself ready when we have modding in Star Citizen in about 12 years. I'll be set. You guys
Yeah.
come to me, I'll have some fucking awesome mods, but just,
It's
we need to wait a little while.
Star Wars mod first. Star Wars mod, right?
Oh my god, no! I mean, shit. I need to do another podcast on just gaming in general because
Yeah.
somebody needs to talk
But
about more Starfield bullshit. But
well,
anyways,
and this is the type of stuff I'm talking about. People are chalking up to desync, and that's a specific issue. That is the symptom of other issues, right? But I'm talking about, like, my issue is specifically the coding and the patchwork coding and just the years of, you know, like I said, patchwork, patches on patches, and doing this as stuff and
yes.
not going back to square one and starting fresh in a way. And you'd warn against that, right? People were saying, "Well, quit implementing content. Let's fix these issues. Let's start fresh." And I want to warn against that big time because of how far we are into development of this game. Right, starting fresh would
S-
be a really bad idea because
So
you'd be,
here's where I have to play devil's advocate for a sec because otherwise it just
Mhm.
wouldn't be fun. No, but
Right.
so the reality is we are creating three things at once. Our CIG is
Hmm.
creating three things at once: Star Engine, Squadron 42, Star Citizen. We all know that there's
Can I add to
been
that?
yeah, one second. Just so we know right now that one of the main priorities for them is Squadron 42, and that's what they're trying to push out. We
Hmm.
have seen a dump of developers come back over to Star Citizen, but there's always that moment of lag and so many questions about how they manage things and how they organize their teams and what priorities what and what project people are working on at a given time, whether it's Squadron or Star Citizen. And the reason why I say that is because we did have those monthly patches last year where there was a lot of stuff coming out, but there were no features. So
Hmm.
then those people who were doing the content kind of disappeared. We got back to the feature team working in Star Citizen, but then now there's not enough communication on Squadron and what's going on there. And we'll talk about Squadron more in detail later, but like, I did just want to put that out there of like, yes, I totally understand the frustration and I think it's merited. The thing
Hmm.
is, we know that these teams are split between the three things, and I don't put it on the devs personally. I put it on management and what they're prioritizing. And sometimes as
Yes.
gamers, it's going to be frustrating because we want them to work on this now, but in
Hmm.
their priority list, they've got other plans. But yeah, I'm sorry. So
Yeah.
what did you want to add?
The other thing I wanted to add to that was the server meshing and the complexity of that, right? Which I think is causing a bunch of issues with the inventory system and stuff like that for us moving between server meshes, which could have been my case. I doubt it, but there, something there within the client. Maybe, I am on a wireless connection for my game, so maybe there was an issue there. and I'm looking to change that. But um, yes, I think you really touched on it, was management and managing the resources that they have. But they have developed Star Engine. They're working on Squadron 42, which is a single player game. Things over there should be a bit easier in the sense, right? Because you're creating the content. You don't have to worry about all the complexities is multiplayer.
You just got to
You're
make sure
working
the
on a
game's not
multiplayer
loading
game.
everything. Yeah.
You're working on a multiplayer game that you're trying to scale with a persistent universe that you have developed server meshing with. And I get the complexity. So I understand the complexity, and it may be causing a lot of the issues and frustrations that we're dealing with. But you know, please, please manage the resources correctly and put them where it's affecting your player base, because this has left me feeling like Star Citizen does not respect my time as a player, as a gamer. I want to come home, I want to have a good experience. And you saw how, them putting resources into having a quote unquote stable universe changed how much time playing people were playing the game, how many people were playing the game. We saw a bunch of new players come into the game, and I started to have a bit more fun with that, because prior to that, that December, right before that, we had the free fly and the December event, like after IAE. Um, I had spent 8 hours getting nowhere in the game, and I felt completely deflated, and I wanted to just walk away at that point. And then luckily, they they pushed for a more stable game. We saw that the game was, I could sit on the game and get some missions done with friends and have very minimal impact with bugs. Those bugs didn't set me back hours on end. They were manageable. I could get through them, and I had a good time. So I'm not saying like, hey, you need to make this a completely perfect game, because I understand we're in alpha. They're still developing things. They're still adding stuff to the game. They're adding new features. Those features will bring in some issue that they're going to have to go back and try and fix and figure out. I get that from a development standpoint, and I get that there's people behind this, and those people can get burnt out. So, I want them to have fun at work. I want them to enjoy what they do. I'm not trying to shit on them or anything, but I want to see this game succeed, because I have a decent amount of money invested into it, and I have a good time with friends when things work. But the way things are implemented right now, um, having my time wasted, I'm just at a point where I just got to walk away and hope for the better, because I can voice my opinion on Spectrum. I can put issue tickets in, but those tickets may not get seen. So, it's up to the community in a whole to set them on the right path to success, and just try and document as much as you can, I suppose. Um,
It's it's a weird world that Star Citizen lives in, because
mm-hmm.
what I always find really hilarious as a streamer is people expect you to keep playing this game, but at the same time they don't play it and they haven't touched it in months, and that always makes me laugh, because it's like you all want to see the madness, and I think a lot of people watch because they want to see, is it time for me to jump in? Is this looking good? Like, are we having fun? And for me, that's one of the main topics of this podcast that I really want to cover is, where's the fun? And I think you can make things more enjoyable than they are now by simply removing a little bit of the grind component. See, Attack Cat, but I know all of you are guilty. I know
Mm-hmm.
every single one of you in chat. Sometimes myself included. Like, I'm not even kidding. Even the ones that are the most vocal, I was like, oh yeah, I didn't see you on Star Citizen last night. Where were you at? And like, like it's like I'm always trying, I'm always down in this game to help out anyone who needs the help, because for me that's where Star Citizen shines, is playing with others, right? And
Yeah.
I want to see people enjoy themselves in this game, but at some point I also want to enjoy myself in this game, right? And like for a long time I could always go back to low flying, and there's a fantastic group of human beings around low flying.
Yeah.
Um, and that really kept me coming in. And I think it's similar for racers. I see a lot of racers, they come in just to do their races, their practice, and then they dip. They don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily stick in the game to go do the other stuff. And that's fine.
Yeah.
Everybody can have, their main thing in this game because, Blip pointed out earlier, like once they get this thing working, people will just be able to live in this. Like you won't, this could be your all-in-one game, like it as an MMO, the scale of things is pretty incredible of what they're trying to achieve. The thing is, the level of ambition compared to how much success they've had with backer funds, you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, with
How long is
also
that
the
sustainable?
investments. Well, right now it's very much sustainable for quite a while
Yeah.
because I mean they're on route to make their most successful financial year ever. They did
Mm-hmm.
150 million last year, which is
Yep.
bigger than the budget for most games to be developed.
Mm-hmm.
Including some of the AAA games. Obviously we're not talking about like development costs for like a GTA 6. Like you can't compare to that.
No,
Um,
you look at GTA and just look at GTA 5 in general and the amount of content that is in that game and on that island. Um, and I can only imagine what went into development of all of that, and then it in and of itself is a nice, sandbox style of game. You got the modding community behind it with RP, and RP is pretty fucking cool, right? So I think you touched on a really good subject. This is a really cool sandbox MMO, and I don't think people have really seen much of anything like that, which is why I've invested what I have in it, and I've enjoyed it up to a point. There has been a lot of frustration with that. Um, but the one thing that keeps me coming back really is the community around the game. It's the people that play the game. And I haven't experienced anything like that. The people that play this game that want to help each other out and have a good time, and a game that scales with the amount of people that you have with you in group is quite amazing because it just the fun increases with the more people that you have. Um, Always, within an extent. So at least when things work is my point there. So if they can continue to improve on that, make things work, get rid of the bugs, cut down on some of the grind, because it doesn't have to be so grindy right now. When you can lose items and you don't have to worry about a wipe or those sort of things, maybe work on balancing that out. But right now, I think they should be focusing on, are people going to invest the time into these new features you're putting into the game? Are they going to invest the time to go out, find the materials, and do that? Because you want as many cases as you can to figure out the bugs that go along with that, right? Because we're testing the game. So cut down on some of that. Maybe increase the not increase the RNG, but increase the spawn rates for some of this higher quality materials, so people are incentivized to go out and do this, so you can get all the data points that you can to fix the issues that surround it.
to quickly touch on a problem with mining that I really shout out to Loud Guns for one of his YouTube videos he made recently on the mining problems. He made a really
Yeah.
great point, which is the way it's set up now is there's no more point in having a mole to gather as much ore as possible. You now need a mole to get to that most inaccessible ore of high quality that's hidden behind a really hard rock to crack. So
Yeah.
you're skipping over all these rocks that aren't going to get mined. They're not going to respawn. So you're not going to have
Mhm.
as much turnover in terms of resources coming in. So it creates this really bad issue where, like, at first I was going out mining, I was having fun. I'm like, I'm just going to suck up everything I can. And then I started to realize, and once I learned that anything under 500 is useless, and really anything under 600 is useless because you might as well just go buy one from the store at that point or go find
Yeah.
one out in looting. But it just, they need to get that under control for me, and it's either increase the rates of I think for me the biggest thing is first decrease the range of quality ores. That's insane. Okay, I get it, it came from Star Wars Galaxies. Star Wars Galaxies is what, a 20-year-old game at this point.
Mm-hmm.
It might be a little outdated in their systems and how people play games. I understand the nostalgia for those who loved that game, but I'm sure that game implemented it way better than whatever we're seeing in this game right now. Um, the other thing
So,
is, I, 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 you touched on this earlier. Going out in a single player, in a single seater mining ship has basically lost most of its value. You might as well just be going rock mining, like
mhm.
geo or rock or hand mining. At that point, you'll make more, you'll get more out of it. I've actually find that more enjoyable now. That's one of the things I liked in the rock breaker was going around finding the rocks, getting the little stuff, finding extra so you had more, whatever. So
Mhm.
it's not that the mining itself is bad, it's just the way we go about mining right now doesn't make any sense, I think. And it's for me, I want, if you're looking at it the here and now as like a hot take, it's like, well, these guys didn't think it through. The reality, I hope, is that they do have a vision. It's just these building blocks don't always make sense at every step of the way. And I'm hoping that's what we're in, a phase
Mhm.
of trust us guys, we have a vision, it will come together eventually, more rather than uh well, you guys don't like this, we thought this was great. I hope
Well,
I hope it's not the latter, because then it kind of creates this issue that I would have with, like, well, do you guys really know how to design the fun? let's talk about let's dive into more of the, is this fun, is are we heading towards fun, is each building block that they are laying leading us towards more fun and quality of life, because that is a part of the fun. So
mhm.
how do you feel the quality of life is, compared to, I mean,
So a
I don't know
concerning
how far
part
back we
to
want to
me,
go.
for the quality of life has been just their ability, I guess, or inability, but they keep missing a lot of the small things that help players along. So in this crafting update with 4.7, there's blueprints that you need to go get. You want to know what missions you need to go take to get what blueprints? You don't know. It's not in the
If you're
game. You got
not
to get a
using a
third.
third party tool, you're not going to find it, or you'd be just going around
Exactly.
randomly forever.
Yeah. So there's lots of that third party tools to go find stuff, which is unfortunate, right? So uh, thanks to Mr. Kraken, I believe it is.
Oh, he's been
He
awesome.
Yeah, he developed a tool. You just install that, you throw it in your SC folder. It shows you what the potential blueprints are for for these
Love
missions
that.
for a limited amount of missions, right? It was just the easy stuff that he could do within a day or whatever it was. But that kind of thing was like, okay, CIG, what are we doing here? You have an event, you have blueprints in, you want people to go and find those, you want them to craft. Crafting takes too long, or getting the materials to get crafting takes too long. Getting the blueprints is a shot in the dark. You're taking missions not knowing what the reward's going to be. So it's stuff like that that can lead the player to be a bit frustrated or have to search for third party tools. And so now you need two screens to play the video game or something, Um,
So one of the things, I
that
mean, it is great to have third party tools coming in.
Mhm.
It's fantastic to see the community just be like, you know what, we're gonna do it ourselves. But the only reason why those things come in is because the game doesn't offer them. And
Yes.
I think it's, I will say, I think it's great that we have a reward other than just the cash and what we loot when we go do these contracts, which is great. That is a step forward. The problem is the RNG of everything is
Yes.
just getting a little too extreme, and everything seems to be RNG.
hmm Yeah, it's random what the reward is that you get for that mission, and it's on a predetermined set of those items. So you're taking a shot in the dark if there's a specific item that you want. Um, on top of that, so it could take you one run to get what you want, or it could take you 10 to 15 runs to get what you want. It really just depends, right? And that's not fun. And like I was talking about earlier, it's laborious. It's taking more time and it's just more work to do in the game rather than going and experiencing the game and having fun and, you know, target farming things, if you will.
Yeah, Blipton makes a
Some of
great
these,
point. Yeah. You don't want it to become like if you don't have these add-ons installs and these overlays on your screen and all of this, then you're lost essentially. And not that
Mhm.
you're useless, but like pure it's pure chance that you fall across that you come across the item you're actually looking for. And I think
Yeah.
it's a little deflating at times to realize that if I want this, it's going to take me so much time. And then you have to think about this. A lot of people are willing to pay for the ability to skip the grind, right? And what I've from day one do not want to see this game become is a pay to win or a pay to advance or a pay to skip the line type of thing where okay, you don't want to, go right now. And here's where it's bad right now is right now you don't want to, spend all that time. The player economy has become so crazy in terms of like value, credit value for certain items that
Yeah.
you're lucky you find an item you can trade for or trade up with, or you're essentially sending people to eBay to go open up their wallets and buy in-game credits and have billions, which eventually floods the market in the game, so to the point where now currency is useless. And here's one thing that I wanted to
Well,
touch on
there
that yeah,
there was
sorry.
exploits that helped with that too.
Yeah, the duping, obviously we know
Yeah.
that's a thing. But one thing I wanted to touch on is I really don't want what I'm worried about right now is that the reason why CIG is now talking about going towards more of a player driven economy, which I know has always been a thing, but they were trying to drive the economy in terms of affecting prices and availability of certain commodities in places depending on flow of cargo haulers, miners, where they were selling and bringing stuff, right? That was supposed to drive the economy. Now we've seen a economy driven by player trades of components for resources, for minables, for whatever it may be, because you're trying to get something from Wicklow or whatever. And I hope that the step towards we want to do more of a player trading market isn't because they're seeing this and going, oh, this is what players want. No, I do not think this is what players want. I think this is a symptom of this is what players can do right now within what you're giving us because you
Yeah.
haven't given us the tools or the framework for something meaningful and actually attainable to exist. I don't want to go, grind out the same thing that's going to make me 10 million every 2-3 hours that I need to do for 10 weeks straight in order to have that billion. I need to go get this item from another player that I have to go use a third party tool for. Yeah, I think right now where the game at is in such an odd place, and I really just do not want them to look at this and say, "Oh, this is what people want, so we're going to do more of this." No, 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 absolutely not. We want an auction
So
house certainly, but we also want to see locations of commodities, prices of commodities fluctuating based on where we are in the verse and what's happening there.
so I just want to view this. I want to step back and view this from, say, a new player. Um, Somebody coming in the game, they spent 35, $45 for a game pack. They're coming in with a ship. In terms of the economy and the grind to get to, say, a player like you and I and some of our friends are at, with hundreds of millions of credits, we can go. We have multiple ships. We have ships for every kind of role. Um, Somebody coming in, can they play and enjoy the game from the game pack up? Can they go and mine and craft stuff already? How much time is it going to take for them to get a prospector or a mole to go do that?
Well, actually,
You
the
can in the
prospector
golem.
is quick because that's what less than 3 million, and then you can get a golem for like 1.1, same as like a vulture.
Mhm.
So they're
So,
they're and there are higher payouts. So
yep.
I think
th-
the new player experience depends on whether you come in solo or with friends. For me,
Hmm.
that's really what the new player experience comes down to.
Okay.
And
And then
yeah.
is the game going to feel alive enough for them to be immersed in this? So if you're going player based economy, players are selling stuff, not NPCs. So do you really need all those vendors in the
Well,
game? Do you need the NPCs to interact with? What are we talking about here? Because right now, like, sure, we have servers with 700 people. The game still feels really empty to me. It doesn't feel alive like other MMOs that I play. Um, it just like it. I rarely have to interact with the NPC characters unless I need to go get a bottle of Cruise Lux.
even then, you don't have to. You just go to a
Yeah,
terminal. But
exactly.
well, no. So
So,
you would always need, even with their current vision,
mhm,
a NPC trader, just because the new player coming into the game, well, like you said, he doesn't have access necessarily to certain things. He needs ammo
yeah,
and weapons. So you're gonna have the NPCs are gonna be necessary no matter what. But you don't want them to essentially graduate out of NPCs eventually completely and always be just crafting their own stuff. Like I think as a new player, there's probably a lot for you to do right now,
yep.
even solo. But the problem is there, I don't necessarily like games that completely hold your hand. I don't, but there is holding your hands too much and then no hand holding whatsoever. And we're in the no hand holding whatsoever, reiterated by the fact that um, we don't know what we get as rewards for certain missions, and you can't, and I'd be okay if it was just a like, here's the blueprint library in your mobi glass, and
Hmm.
here's where you could potentially find these things. Like, these guys are saying they're giving out these blueprints, and you look through the list, and then you'd be like, okay, well, if I do these missions logically, I should be getting what these guys are offering. There isn't even that basic framework, and that's where I feel like sometimes I wonder, is this oversight? Is it a lack of time? Is it a desire to get the feature or the content out before you actually have the time to flesh it out? Which seems to be the trend, at least, of we'll get you guys this stuff as soon as we can because we know you guys are starving for stuff to do.
Hmm.
And that's the reality, is
Yeah.
a month into a patch and you've done everything. If you haven't done everything by then, it's because you've avoided it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But you have had plenty of time to grind rep if you need to, get through multiple contracts. One of the greatest things about the ASD was that each contract led to another contract, which had you playing and enjoying and like, I have something to work towards and I'm going to do
Going
this. Like,
going to and from that facility, feeling like you're doing something and progressing through it, right?
yeah.
The only thing that I felt that it lacked was NPC interaction, and that's where I'm kind of getting with the verse feels empty. I go to my wrist and I go to the interface there to find my missions and stuff. I'm not going to an NPC in a bar or somewhere fun and interacting with that NPC and selecting dialogue, right? We've seen that they've had that in the game prior at some point, but now it's all text based. It's just right there
Well,
in
no,
front of
now we
you. You
also
select it.
have the videos coming across the MFTs, which was a
Yeah,
nice
but
addition. But like you said, it's not going to see somebody. But at the same time, ask
mhm,
yourself this, and this is something that I've talked about in the past: is it shouldn't completely be always go to this place to talk to this person to
no,
get a quest, but it shouldn't only be open your Moby glass and do the quest through there either. There has to be a
and that's the issue I
balance,
have.
and we've lost the
To me,
balance. Yeah.
yeah, to me, everything is through molding glass. I'm not going to locations and dealing with people and feeling like I'm having some sort of impact. It's just go through the molding glass. And so, like, touching on that, and like with the ASD, going to and from that facility, sure, that maybe too many times, I don't know, but it was fun in the sense that you're going there and they get you going deeper and deeper and deeper and doing progressively more difficult um, puzzles, right? And those puzzles allowed you to use basically every attachment for your multi tool, and and you're fighting, you're healing yourself, you're repairing stuff, you're moving stuff around, like you're mining things, and just the complexity of like the core room and hitting all the switches in order and like learning all that stuff. That to me, the ASD was like a peak kind of scenario when it comes to that sort of interaction and feeling like you're making a difference in the game world. You're doing something in the game world, and the loot tables there were pretty good and fun to play with. The enemies were fun. They had some cool little activities in there. Throwing bodies into a thing for biomass was fun. Like stuff like that, right? And
Yeah.
so we've seen the progression through some of these missions. I think ASD was a really good example of that. Unfortunately, it's kind of broken. Um, but they felt like there was a story building there with that. And
I mean,
then
yeah,
they
whether you
move on to
like
the
the
next
story or
thing.
not, that wasn't the point. There was actually something building up that you could get
Yeah.
into and
Hmm.
enjoy and progress through. And yeah, people have been like, well, it's a sandbox. There's not supposed to be any progression. Well, yes and no. You can have Gary's mod if you want, but Gary's mod is not going to be fun for a lot of people who want a not necessarily tailored experience, but something to progress through, something to look forward to, a quest that takes you to another quest, some a
Hmm.
reward that you have to go through a quest line to get to. Stuff like
Yep.
that makes a lot of sense. And I think that's why Rockbreaker is so enjoyable, is because they implemented a lot of the same things that they had working in the ASDs, except this time it just all works flawlessly. As we were talking about this, I remembered what my biggest issue with ASDs were when they first came out, and that was getting the salvaging tool to work.
Hmm.
That thing broke all the freaking time. Now all that stuff is better. To have a little moment of giving credit where credit's due to CIG, a lot of little things have gotten better. Tractor beam gameplay has gotten 100 times better than where it was at. You can
That
actually
was a big
hand
quality of life
things.
increase.
that
Yeah.
that was a quality of life. So when they put the effort in to fix something and improve it, the we are so grateful for it that it it makes things so much better. But at the same time, it's a basic mechanic of the game. We move on from that victory very quickly because it's something you use so often. And then you inevitably forget that it didn't work properly in the past, and that's fine. Right
Mhm.
now, we have too many things you know, that are coming in that just aren't working. And if the cycle is always going to be, we bring in a bunch of features, they're kind of half broken for half a year to a year, and then they finally get fixed. Well, that's still a frustrating process to go through. And that's where the quality of life discussion is so all over the place, because like, yeah, like I said, there are certain things that have gotten a lot better, but then there are certain basic things that we've been trying to use since the beginning of the game, since the beginning of playing this game for some of us, which is like,
Mhm.
elevators. That's going to be fixed. Which, by the way, quick note, I heard about this earlier this morning. Freight elevators are not a part of the transpo refactor. Freight elevators are separate. So this
Mhm.
transfer refactor is not going to fix freight elevators. So there's that. But the point I was trying to make is, there's always this balance between things that we've had in the game for a long time that are broken, things that we've had in the game for a long time that are finally fixed, and then all the new stuff coming in that's broken. And so I feel like it's 2/3 broken to 1/3 working in the game kind of ratio at all
Mhm.
times. And that, uh, you know, depending on how interested and involved you are with the game at that moment, whether it's you have a good group of people you're playing with, so they're also keeping you interested, or the gameplay and the content really speaks to you, so you've come back in for that. One of the, we all know these people and we all hang out with them, and I support other streamers who a lot of their thing is around not just industrial, but mainly hauling cargo and moving boxes. I am so glad that they are enjoying that. I personally cannot move boxes indefinitely without wanting to jump out of the ship, um, or backspace, um, just to be
Or jump
polite.
off a horse.
Yeah,
Than
just like just be
yeah.
like, you know what, I'm gonna go float in space for a
Look,
while.
the improvements to the tractor beam has made moving freight a bit more enjoyable for sure. And I started my channel or my Star Citizen content just moving boxes and being space FedEx and delivering, cargo, and I still do enjoy it to this day. Um, but that's not what everybody's going to want to do or enjoy doing. And NPCs they're supposed to be mechanics. There are mechanics in the game for loading and unloading cargo, but when it comes to those bigger things, we got bigger ships coming out that are going to have thousands of SCU. I don't think people are going to want to do that by hand all the time. So there was talks about. I saw a video recently of Chris Roberts talking about, you pull into port like in California and stuff, and
Oh, that old one.
there's
Yeah.
people, yeah, there's people that are operating the cranes and the forklifts and all the stuff to move the crate off of the ship, and not necessarily the owner of the ship or the people operating on the ship have to do that work, right? There's somebody else that does it. So it would be kind of cool. Let's say you pull into a hangar or whatever, and PCs run out and they start offloading the correct cargo that you need or something. Sure, there'd be some kind of advanced AI or animations or something like that. Maybe that's a shot in the dark from me, but I think that would be something that would make the verse feel a bit more full in a sense, or populated, instead of just walking around and seeing NPCs mucking about, standing in the same spot, or having odd, weird conversations. Um, and like actually seeing them do something would be kind of cool.
So to wrap, okay, one thing I will say is,
Mhm.
um, I'm starting, and this is probably unpopular. I may
Mhm.
be um, uh, talking about this too soon, but I'm starting to get worried about the writing quality in Star Citizen and the voice acting quality. Now, I feel like they've done a pretty good job with a lot of the voice lines. Like the guy who you talk to for the ASDs, I think he's
Mhm.
just fine. It's nothing,
Yep.
no one's winning an Oscar or any awards for any of the stuff that's been in there right now, but that's just fine. I don't know how you all felt, but I want to see the guy who works for Shubin who talks to you. I want to see him fired. I don't want to talk to that guy ever again. He annoys me like nothing else. I maybe this is just me, but I've also noticed in some of the wild lines, and for people who don't know what wild lines are, it's a term used in the um, in the industry for film and stuff like that, where it's just basically like background noise, essentially kind of taken like that, or just random lines you might hear. And if you listen to some of the conversations between the NPCs, I just kind of go, who the hell would be having that conversation just randomly in the middle of a space station? Now, some of them are, pretty good. Next time you die and spawn back in like a hospital, like at Area 18 or something, just stand at the front desk and listen to them.
Mhm.
Um,
Look, I love Jared. Okay, I think he's a great front man for Star Citizen. And he's been part of it for such a long time. He's such a great character. Hearing his voice in game is totally immersion breaking, is all I gotta say. It just pulls me right out of it, and it's like I know exactly who that is. You know, like it's cool that he's in the game in that sense. It's just awkward every time I hear him. It's just awkward. No, like I'm not trying to come after the man. It's just one of those things that's like we see him so much, we hear him so much. It's weird to hear him there. But yeah, I am total agreement with you when it comes to some of the voice lines. Again, to quote Bert, "They got your cousin." We hear that all the time in combat. And there was some other ones that's like, "I'm gonna kill your dog and burn your
Oh,
house
that one.
down,"
That
and
one actually, I
yeah.
find I like because it's unexpected. I was like, wow, that
Mm.
escalated very quickly. But and
Like,
that one I
I
can
get
laugh
this.
at. It's the
Yeah.
ones where it's like I've started to get this feeling like maybe the writing team is letting what's going on currently bleed in, and like all of a sudden we're seeing it's like the Empire keeps fucking up, but the Empire is screwing over their citizens. Like, guys, just we're about to play a game where the Empire is the hero of the fucking story. You guys are already
Mm.
destroying that lore, in Star Citizen. Like, Jesus Christ. And Bear makes a good point of he says A lot of games use, employee voice lines as placeholders for now. The problem I have with that statement, even though I agree that there's probably some truth to that, is it still has no excuse for the writing. A, B, it also in this game, in this case particularly, you have a single player game that's been shot, motion captured, written, voice lined, all that stuff. Now, I think the biggest thing playing for Squadron 42 is it was most likely written out completely and just had minor modifications recently, but most likely it was written out completely in 2012 to 2016 when they initially were trying to get the game out. So that's the core of it is probably still then. So I don't think it got too weird, but I just don't want the game to start playing on things that it has no business playing on. You're in the future. Act like you're in the fucking future. Come up with your own story. Make it
Mhm.
crazy. I don't care what you guys try to touch on as long as it feels organic and, there it's hard to be a good writer. I'm going to be honest. I work with a lot of writers. I've read a lot of scripts in the last couple of years because of my job, and holy shit is a lot of the stuff bad. Like really bad. You're like, "Wow, please don't quit your day job." Like like please seriously. And I don't know how to tell you this without being mean, but like but that's the other thing, and Tag Cat makes a great point, is marketing now has way too much of a say in a lot of things. Now, we'll never truly know how much marketing affects what artistic direction they take or what the directors are starting to think or how it plays out, how the story is going to play out. But right now, at least if we're talking purely about Star Citizen, for me, marketing has been the biggest drive behind, the necessity to have such a large ship team, which, I have mixed feelings about that always. I say this is how they fund the game. We want the game to come out. We're very happy. So that we might end up getting this one day. So we're totally okay with, there's a part of me that's totally okay with them making their money that way. But then the other side of me goes, for fuck's sake, put more of this effort into finishing out the game, or at the very least, the ships that are supposed to be paired with certain features, make sure those features are in game before you actually release those ships. Just or release them at the same time. And hey, guess what? That's a marketing reason to push those ships because hey, you can actually use them properly instead of just hey, look what you can fly around. Or look at this cool new thing you can have in your hangar sitting there gathering dust in space. Yes, because you gather dust in space. But, anyways, the other thing I want to say, and to kind of go back to what I was saying earlier about, I hope they don't take what's going on now as an indication of what players want or in the future, because a lot of it is players are doing what they can right now. But another thing I think CIG, I wonder if at times this, what's their mentality. The reality for me, and you may not agree with this, is CIG have made $1 billion in backer money, not because the game is fantastic right now, but because of the potential of what it could be down the line. And at times, I wonder if they pat themselves on the back too much. Like, look how good we're doing. We've made all this money. No, 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 no. We gave you that money for what you're hoping to achieve, what we hope you're going to achieve, not because right now this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Um,
I think you need to change potential to what's promised, right? Because we're basing that off of what they're telling us they're going to do.
well, so okay, but
And what
then
they're
with that, you also have to understand that. So, and I understand this very well because of I work in the movie industry. What you
Mhm.
sell someone on is not necessarily the same. It's not necessarily what you expect in the end product, because you're
Mhm.
still following that person's vision who's creating it, which may differ from your own. So,
Yeah.
putting too much expectations on something is always a little dangerous because you don't know how that's going to play out. Um, the
And
promise is to get
as
us certain things, but how they go about it is still up for debate.
as somebody,
Not
I
yet,
mean,
Bear.
as an investor into this game and the franchise, I'm gonna go at. I understand, like they're gonna promise me certain things, they're gonna say certain things, and in the development process things may change, and that may be due to complexities or resources. They may not be able to deliver 100% of everything they said, or maybe there's some change in direction and they're going to change up or, you know, implement it in a different facet, like crafting was said to be. You're going to be able to tweak or overclock things, not just completely um, craft something from scratch, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I do see that. Um, sorry, I got a little distracted at the end there.
No, that's fine.
I don't know. Right now, if we're talking about where's the fun, I think it's not there. I think the only things I find fun are things like low flying, but that's not something that's ever been, worked on for low flyers. We get what we get, basically. The
Hmm.
only thing that I guess you could tailor, really, the low flyers might weigh in on is flight model, and right now, flight model feels pretty much the same as it has since master modes came out, with some minor tweaks here and there. I've definitely felt more weirdness in my controls as a low flyer recently. Sometimes things are extra twitchy, others not so much. I don't know. That may depend on server performance to a certain extent. I really have no idea. But I think right now the fun is missing. At least the fun is missing on a longer period of time, because I did go in and have a lot of fun doing Rockbreaker.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
no, and I have most definitely had fun in Rockbreaker. It's, like I said, the complexity of the missions that they're putting together, the length of time, and the reward and build up at the end has been good. I do wish there was a bit more reward to that particular mission. I don't feel like the loot tables are all that rewarding. And I've only done the mission, I don't know, a handful of times. I probably count on one hand. Um, that's my experience with this patch so far. But I do like the missions, and hopefully this, the next one that they're coming out with, that with the need for different levels of ships and different role types. Not the trench, it's trench run, whatever the hell they're calling it. When that comes to that, I think that's going to bring a lot of fun to the game. Right now, the systems that are in place in terms of just living and surviving in the verse, so like just trying to craft your gear and stuff like that, I don't feel that those systems draw out a lot of fun. I do have fun doing the industrial gameplay, but it's more work than it is rewarding
Yeah,
in the sense of,
it's busy work.
yeah, it's in it that takes up too much of the time compared to doing some of the other things in the game.
And the other thing I'd add to that is, it's one thing to have busy work and some grind. Like every MMO has to have a certain amount of that.
Hmm.
But and I feel like people purposely sometimes forget about this, is like there is a layer of, yeah, but the game's not letting me do that. The game's breaking. It's not letting me claim a ship. It's destroying my ship on the pad. It's
Hmm.
um it's inventory loss. It's desync. So what I thought I had in my inventory isn't actually there. It's I can't break this rock because, well, I have all the attachments I should have, but I just can't break it. It's the amount of,
That rock doesn't exist.
it's you're searching for rocks and then you server error and you've got to start over again. It's you fly into an invisible asset, your ship flies it, blows up. But as a low flyer, very used to that. That doesn't happen nearly as much as it used to, but when desync gets really crazy and server loads get really high, like right now with free fly, that happens more and more often. Um, so I think if the game were to run properly, it would be better. But still, my biggest issue personally, and I know I didn't really touch on this too much. I wanted to let you speak, but my biggest issue right now is the grind is insane. It is way too much. The quality spectrum of ore is ridiculous. It
Hmm.
does not work in its current state. And I'm not against having that many different levels of quality, but then the amount of ore we get out has to be increased. Or you have to increase the ore we get out of refining. Because right now, it is all geared towards making you spend as much time as possible doing that. Now, I always like to remind people that there is a reason why they want this, which is they see it as, well, the more time we have them engage with the game and do things because they have to, the more data we get out of that, and the more the things get tested out, right? But then you touched on this earlier. It's very hard and frustrating when people are putting in issue council tickets that maybe only two, three people have gotten for now. They close out that ticket and that problem never actually gets solved. And we don't know, they don't know if that is a symptom of bigger issue, if it's tied into something else. Is it purely just server performance, stuff like that?
Mhm.
So, and don't worry, Bear. I was going to get into that at the end because that doesn't really have to do with the 4.7 conversation. But yeah, I think right now the biggest frustrations for me are the inventory just becoming a massive clutter. Like, cool, you guys put in a new inventory. I wasn't sold on it at the beginning. I think there are certain features of it that are great, which is for me the biggest quality of life feature they brought in with this new inventory is the being able to drag to your hand and then just having its own box, which was great. It worked at first, but then 4.7.1 came out and it doesn't work anymore. At least I wasn't able to on all the servers I was on the other day.
They had released a hot fix for that. From what I'm aware, it was causing the hand thing to disappear, and then supposedly hot fixes brought that back. But you do touch on, you just reminded me another quality of life thing that I'm talking about here is I don't feel like they respect my time because you remember equip all. I could just right click on a mag and equip all, and it would fill all my mag slots on my armor, or all of my med pen slots on my pants, or my grenade slots, whatever. They took that out. You can't equip all anymore. You have to equip one by one now, and that takes more time. That's a quality of life thing that's just gone for whatever reason. The auto stacking, when they released 4.7, there was a note that said they took it out. I haven't seen auto stacking come back. I don't know if it has. I haven't played in, I don't know, four days or whatever it is now. I know there's been some updates, but like stuff like that. There's the little things that either they've removed or they just don't do, that like it's a consistent thing that I'm seeing with CIG. Is it just would make a huge difference in the enjoyability, or just for players in general to, you know, get through the game.
Sorry. I agree. I wouldn't.
I don't know if you've seen
Bear,
that clip by
I
Bert.
think we should have Tarkov inventory because I think everybody needs to share in my mess. That is my inventory. It's fine. All right. Don't look at my
I mean,
stash.
as long as I can fill it out, fill it up with weapons cases and dump all my weapons into those, we're good.
But then Bert brings up, is that true, Bert? I need to see this. Can you actually load a water bottle into your gun? Because that would be so fantastic. Leave that bug in game. Don't take that one out. Leave it.
He has a bug where his guy's going to reload his coda, and he has the water, the cruise water, whatever it is, the blue bottle, and he puts it in there. And somebody else had Salzy had him load. What was it? Bert? He loaded, like, the animation loaded some other object in there. I can't remember what it was. But yeah, I've seen that. Like, much like the clip I have of me losing my parallax, just stuff bugging. A spork. His guy loaded a spork into his gun. And I think that goes along with, I don't know if you've seen in the new inventory when you load it up, they load each 3D model for those specific entities with their own light source to show you, rather than have just a sprite. Just show me a sprite. You don't have to load all of that stuff. I don't know what extra resource that costs. I saw people talking about it. They were saying it doesn't cost much, but it sure creates a lot of visual glitches. I've seen items change to other items for whatever reason.
Then there's the whole placeholder one that's always there.
Yeah, like just what is it going to take to just have sprites and just a general inventory system? And why does this inventory system seem too complex? So, like,
sorry, Bert just sent me the clip.
Dude, it's great, isn't it? He just loads in the water bottle like it's a thing.
Can you
Yeah.
post that in Discord? Just
Uh,
post it in the general or the Star Citizen. Oh wait, can I do that?
yeah, you guys got to check it
Because
out.
everybody's got to see this. I don't know. Can I just? We could do this. Can I just share
If
my
you can, if
screen
he
real
sent
quick?
it to you, you can just put the source up as a window
Yeah, I'm gonna
in
do that real
OBS.
quick. I'm gonna do that real quick. Uh,
Oh, it's great. It's wonderful. I wish Salzy had his spork clip as well. I wish he had a clip. But yeah, we're seeing some wild glitches, which, some of the glitches are funny. They're cheeky and fun like
okay,
that.
here you go, everybody. Enjoy. Kaboom!
Yes.
What is going
Throws it
on?
in there. It just throws it in there like it's nothing. What?
Oh, Coda takes bottles now. No, no,
Yeah.
never remove that glitch from the game, please. Keep that
Yep.
forever. You're not allowed to take that out. But it's like the Half-Life 2 weapon, or was it in Half-Life 1 2, where you could just load up a bunch of random shit. It was also a Fallout weapon too, and just fucking fire that.
I don't
Uh
remember a Half-Life weapon like that, but still.
was it Half-Life 2 or was it, I forget what game it
Half-Life 2 had the
was.
grav gun.
That was the grab gun. Okay. But yeah, exactly. We need either like a, like the t-shirt guns, well, except you
Super Soaker variants.
the super
Uh,
soakers, or you just like phoomp, phoomp, phoomp. That would be great. They just
uh,
repurpose the grenade launcher. Um, no, that
oh,
okay.
we went
Shenanigans
and did
aside.
we went and did a QE station, and the mounted turrets they have in there. We had an NPC shooting the mounted turret bullets from a separate position where he was, which was kind of
See
funny
that
because
I've noticed
I
is
just got
in other games too.
absolutely blasted.
But that's a decent thing. So
Mhm.
you've seen it in Arma, right? You see somebody in the helicopter and they shoot the gun, but the bullet tracers are like 10 feet behind.
Mhm.
That's the
Well, no,
same desync
no,
bullshit.
but you know how the NPCs in Star Citizen will run and cover and shoot from certain areas. This guy
Mm-hmm.
was doing that, but he would he was shooting the turret from that position, which was crazy. Like he had that angle on you, he could shoot you. It was crazy. Like yeah, I died to that, but
But okay, so
crazy stuff,
um,
crazy.
I think we can both agree that right now there's stuff coming in, but the fun isn't necessarily there, and I think it's partially that the game don't work so well at times, and then also that
Mhm.
these are for me personally, I'm trying to look at it, and I called this out before it came in. It was like, we're getting crafting. It is a big deal, and I still believe it's a big deal, but
Mhm.
it's gonna suck at beginning, and I was right. It's just like it kind of
Yeah,
sucks. The
it's
crafting itself
craft.
is fine. It's the getting to the crafting and supplying the craft. There you go.
Yeah, yeah. All the roadblocks aren't there, and maybe that's we can chalk that up to being an alpha, a game in development. They're working
15
through
years.
all
Sorry.
yeah, 15 years of spaghetti code. Like, look, if you're going to implement something, please think about it top to bottom. You're missing a lot of things along the way. I think you're trying to do too much at once. Remain a bit more focused. I know you're trying to push out content, every couple of weeks now to keep people busy and in game and playing. Unfortunately for me, um, the game has lost its fun in the sense of it's not like there's not fun things to do. It's not like I can't have fun in the game because I can when it works. But I've had too much of my time wasted because of the bugs and the just things that end up setting you back to square one after you've invested several hours into the game has led me to a point of frustration to where I just don't want to play with it anymore until these things are taken care of. And I'm not saying CIG is incompetent. We can see what they've made up to this point, but I would like them to focus resources on taking care of these issues because it's not just going to make it more enjoyable for me. It's going to make it enjoyable for all the other players and new players coming into the game, and it'll help them be more successful in bringing people in the game. I could then feel like if there's less of these issues and annoyances that set you back, that I could tell people to, I can, invite people into the game. I'd be more willing to tell people, yeah, this is a game worth spending some money on and enjoying and spending time on, because it's not going to waste it. Unfortunately, it's not there for me.
Well, you got okay. So I have two things to say. One, real quickly, to touch
Mhm.
on what you just say. You got to look at games overall, and a lot of the games now, they're not designed for you to have fun. They're designed for you to sink your time in and waste your money. Um, so you also have to take that into account that games do seem to be at times being driven by marketing and monetization more than playability and enjoyability. I do hope I don't think it's time to judge Star Citizen on that quite yet, even though plenty of judgment for Star Citizen, but we're funding a game different from a game that is fully released. So just that little caveat. But the other thing I want to say is it is so important to not get caught up in the marketing game. And I was trying to give them the benefit of the doubt earlier when I was saying, like, I think these are all stepping stones, and each stepping stone may not be as enjoyable as a previous one or as the next one. They're all kind of, their own cases. But stop trying to sell people on, and please don't do this in the future, of selling people on, you can do this right now in game. This thing is fully in. I do believe that this is just a stepping stone and this isn't the full fleshed out uh, mechanics for crafting or mining or all of that. I still think there's more to come, but a little bit of transparency and it's like, hey guys, this is our latest iteration of this. It's still a work in progress. We plan to add a bunch of stuff, which they do. Continue that discussion and try to tone down the marketing of you can do all this in game now, because that's a lie. And if you guys let marketing drive the development, you're going to have a shitty game, because marketing
Mhm.
doesn't know how to make a fun game. They know how to market stuff. You,
Yeah,
the
they know how.
developers, make the game fun. They
They,
That, which then should make their life easier, because if the game's enjoyable, then there's not as much marketing needed, right?
Mhm.
So yeah.
Uh, just an example of that was there wasn't a lot of marketing around Arc Raiders. They just built something that was fun and enjoyable for people to play. I don't know if that's the case today. I haven't played in several months, but I know that game was immersive, had a good background story to it, and was just fun to play. And the interactions in that game are just fun. Um, when it comes to marketing and stuff, touching on games today, typically the games that want you to sink your money in time into are big publisher backed games that have shareholders to abide by. You know, being a crowd-funded game that Star Citizen is, like you said, yeah, we probably shouldn't compare them to that or judge them on that yet. And I agree with that. But you can look to indie games if you want to find something that is built by somebody that's passionate, and typically you will find things that are enjoyable for, like, you get either as much that you paid for in content or more. We've seen lots of
Come play
games that
Arma.
have come out from we've seen lots of games that have come out by indie publishers that have taken off and made millions of dollars because they are just fun. They don't
Mhm.
ask for anything else. They just provide a fun game mechanics for people to enjoy.
They're not
Um,
trying to push something. They're not trying to make you
mhm.
open your wallet every 2 seconds. It's just people with a vision who have put it together and want to give you
Yeah,
something, which is
and
why I've been spending so much time trying to create. And whether it was DayZ before, now with Armor Reforger, like I just find it fun. So
something that I believe to the core is some of the best games that come out are by small, passionate dev teams that just want to make something fun for the community. And it's not to appease to a wider player base. They're unapologetic as to what their game is,
no, because
and
they're
they've
throwing to make a
made
game they want to play to start with, right?
exactly. All right,
Yeah.
with the one upper there, try to.
All right. So let's talk about 4.8. So in 4.8 so far, and I don't remember everything, we do have fleet battles, which is huge. We're talking about that. We have some additions to crafting. We have the transfer factor. And honestly, I'm spacing on what else is coming in. But I think just with fleet battles, A, we have something to look forward to. And B, I think that'll be a big milestone. And the reason why I want to talk about that is because, we've just spent all this time talking about where's the fun. And in the past, and we've talked about this on stream recently, and it's come up in a couple past podcasts. One of the things that I think a lot of us found the most enjoyable in this game at one point, well, that short-lived period, was doing a bounty, doing a mission, soft deathing a ship, taking all their cargo, going to sell it, doing that loop. Because one of the reasons why I think that was so enjoyable is because that was a space game right there. No other game could give you that experience. None.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, we kind of lost a little bit of that. They tried bringing that in for an event. It was okay. I forget what event that was. Was it Xenothreat? I think they gave us that. Anyways, or there was another one too, where you could get the resources from enemy ships, which was great and all, but it didn't have the same. Also those were, I'm talking about days where money mattered. Where finding a shipment of weevil egg and selling it was a big deal. Now nobody cares. But no, so I think for me, what I'm hoping is that these fleet battles, they bring back the fun. Force, kind of get groups going. I think it's unfortunate we're getting those before we're getting the social tools rework. That is, for me, one of the things we need the most right now, along with some stability, is those social tools, so that we can find a group of people who want to do a QV, or who want to do Rockbreaker, or who want to go do fleet battles, or we can make the verse live a little bit because we're meeting people that we're talking to in the verse.
I don't know why, but you talking about that really just made me, at least in my opinion, I feel like Star Citizen being an MMO, it doesn't feel like an MMO because there isn't that type of activity, or at least it doesn't feel like it. I haven't experienced that. Like, hey, let's get a group of people together to go do this.
I mean, Jumptown was that. Siege was kind of that. Those were good times. Those were early days and the before times.
Yeah. When I started playing, I came in at the butt end of Siege of Orison, which I think might have been like the second time it was implemented.
They've done it a few times, but you came in for the last time they did it.
I came in for the last time they did it.
2.5 years ago now, something like that.
Yeah, and I think that's where I met like Sweat and Arkin, and we'd had some fun. I was playing a little bit with Dadbod and that group as well. But Siege of Orison was awesome, and that area still exists. You can go and visit it. And I had a good time with that. And I think that's a lot of what really drew me into the game is, being an FPS player, I'm really looking forward to whatever improvements they're bringing to FPS. Crafting being one of those, being able to craft better weapons had me really excited until, again, not trying to beat a dead horse, but until I lost that item, right?
Yeah.
I was super excited about it. I think it's a really cool feature, being able to tweak weapons, and that's a lot of that was what my fascination with Tarkov was. Not so much the overall game itself, but being able to customize weapons the way you can in that game.
So good. It's the best. Yeah, honestly, one of the best parts. The gunplay, the weapon customization, and the stash were the best parts of that game for me.
Yeah, and then the different types of ammunition that actually have an effect, and that's like a skill gap in and of itself, right? Just knowing all of those things, which I think is really cool. And I'm hoping that SC can get rid of some of this desync and these server issues that they're running into, and make a more consistent user experience or player experience for better FPS play. Because I was having a great time in the CZs in Pyro, and I want more of that content. Unfortunately, that's very limited at this time, and I would like to see more of it come into the game.
Had some great moments in contested zones. Fantastic moments in contested zones. I mean, we went back and ran some recently, and there's no loot in there. No loot is
Yep.
spawning.
Yeah, the loot tables are
All
gone,
broken.
and that was a main reason me and my boy Bert, Orbital, shout out, we're hitting them up because we were dominating in there, and we were getting lots of good loot and stacking that up. And when you were losing, your items, it made a huge difference in being able to recover from that. So I'd like to see more of that, which would be
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. All right. Are you looking forward to any of the new ships? I think we have 10 coming in, or we have, and that includes the Aura Mark II, the UTI, sorry, the UTV, and the
Yes, the
uh
STD. So
and
you
what
got the
was the
Gray
other
Cat,
one? And the
UTV, the
Hobie.
Holby, the Miss Colby, and the Aurora MK2,
So
which,
then now we have
um,
coming out the Ironclad, which I
yep,
think is the biggest one, not just
yeah,
size
it
wise,
was,
but I think that's gonna, because I think what'll be most interesting in it is seeing how well or not well the command module works,
yes.
because then
So
they got to get
the
to work
the
on the caterpillar.
the preview of the command module looked pretty interesting, and I'm really looking forward to that because you have that, and the Caterpillar is probably going to get a rework because of that, right? So
Hopefully.
um, that'll be really interesting to see. I personally have an Ironclad. As you know, as I mentioned earlier, I was heavily into freight, and I'm looking forward to using the Caterpillar as kind of like a forward operating base that I can move around, and I can throw my mining or my salvage ship in, and I can go out and I can operate out of the zone for a while, maybe away from people or whatever, or do big hauling missions, stuff like that. Like, I'm
Hmm.
really looking forward to the Ironclad and what it has to offer in terms of changing gameplay for people and being able to have have a base away from home, so to speak. Uh,
Then we get the
the
Gata, the
the
Galen, the what's it called,
the Raylan,
the Raylan. Yeah,
the
the,
Galen,
is
the
that what I
Raylan.
said?
So
Yeah, yeah, the
the
Raylan.
Raylan, which is the alien hauling ships coming out that they've had to put a lot of work in, and I think they initially said that it lost a bit of the capacity that they were looking for. I don't quote me on that. I can't remember. I thought that's how that went. Much like the higher whole series, like the whole E or whatever, had lost a bunch of cargo, but it's all gonna make sense in the end, basically, because that's all just like a scaling thing, right? But
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure when
in
they first
terms,
put it on paper, they didn't. No, that's the thing, is they came out, they concepted a lot of this stuff before,
yeah,
anything really
those
got
scales are,
implemented, and those scales, they're just going to change, and that's absolutely fine. I'm okay with that.
yeah, those scales were just way too big, and that was probably way too ambitious for something that's supposed to be a big, open, persistent universe. Which that's fine with me. That's okay, just as long as it makes sense, right? So,
Hmm.
but the ships that came out, the Aurora MK2, I was really impressed with. I think they nailed the styling. It still feels much like an Aurora, or looks like an Aurora, in my opinion. Still follows kind of the same cab concept, right? And then how they were able to hide the circular door, like how the panel comes
Hmm.
out, right, and how it retracts away. You still have the circular door, so it still very much feels like an Aurora. And one thing that I really like about it is the modularity, which is, you can play multiple roles with it with the module, which is neat. I think that's cool, and in the future will allow for it to be a multifaceted starter vehicle for people. Though with discussions with my own chat, the Titan still kind of holds true as the best starter ship because it can do cargo, can do fighting,
I think the
it can
best starter
debug
now is the
worms.
Clipper because of the med bay and the crafting
Well,
table. But
just what's the price of the Clipper? I think that runs near $100 or something like that.
yeah,
Kind
it's
of
more
kind of close
expensive.
to a, yeah. So I mean, maybe a good first upgrade. It is a great solo ship. Don't get me wrong. I like the Clipper. I think that was really a turning point for me seeing what the ship team can do. Just what the sounds that came out with it, just the overall design, having a generalist ship that has a med bed, has a crafting station. You can kind of do it all. That's why I ended up getting it was because, hey, if I wanted to just go on and do a few things, I can hop in the Clipper and I kind of have it all, right,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak. So, um, but the Aurora, like I said, I really like the whole B. I love the styling of. I'm not so much impressed with the price. I get its price point. Like I totally understand its price point just
I didn't
because
look
of
at
how
how
much
much it
cargo it can haul.
was.
It's 260, I think.
Jesus
260, 280.
Christ. Okay. I mean, the Max was similarly priced actually when I think about it.
Yeah, the Star Lancer Max is like it was 220 to 250, somewhere in that region or something. Um, but then it's like, okay, well, Star Lancer Max is like 298 SKU. You can cram a bit more in there with it, but it has the Star Lancer Max isn't as fast. Um, used to be before engineering could be an easily soloable ship, and it has a decent amount of firepower to defend itself, and you don't have exposed cargo, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
but the Starlancer Max is supposed to have, the hauling version, the military version, the dropship version, which I don't think is a really good dropship at all, just because it's way too slow in atmosphere.
So
Again, me
slow.
complaining about
So
Starlancers and
slow.
their speed.
So
And then
slow.
it's supposed to have a building one, the BLD, which is supposed to come out probably with base building eventually, right? So it's going to be kind of like a crafter building ship, which I'm
I
looking
didn't
forward
realize they
to
were
seeing
going
how
to do
that
that.
works out.
I didn't
Yeah.
realize the
So,
Starlancer was getting a base building. I know the Galaxy was going to have a base building module, or they took it
mhm,
away and now they put it back because they told us they were. So we held them to
yeah.
accountable to that. And then there's the
So
Pioneer, and yeah.
I love the styling of the Misk ships. The Holby kind of has the Starlancer esque nose to it, cockpit area. They did make an improvement where they eliminated a lot of the girth to the center console, and that helped push the seats up. So people are closer to the windshield. They got a little bit better visibility. I wonder if that improvement will be pushed over to the Starlancer. Hopefully, that'll make the Starlancer a bit more of an enjoyable ship. I personally never had an issue with the viewing out of the Starlancer, because I typically, when I get in, because I'm a mouse and keyboard flyer player, typically when I get in and I'm flying around, if I'm doing something, I right click and zoom in, and that gives me a full view kind of in front of the ship, right? Because it pushes the camera forward, gives you a little bit of a zoomed in effect. Um, so like for me, the Starlancer was a ship for me for a while, but the whole B, like I said, I think costs too much. I like the styling. Um, but one thing that I think Misk is missing was they hinted at like they have licensing. Misk has licensing or is in partner with some of the alien tech, and you're missing that. So it's like you still have just your basic elevators rather than something that's like energy based that'll lift the pad or whatever. I'd like to see more implementation into that. Um, what
Apparently,
else?
the Raylan, excuse me, is getting a
Hmm.
lot of that. It's getting a lot of like new tech. Things kind of come out of nowhere. Everything folds. There's a lot of moving pieces. So
Hmm.
I did watch a little bit on that,
I
and that looks very cool. But
One big prop. Whoever animated the Holby's, extended, retracted stuff for the panels, excellent job. That looks really cool, and it looks smooth, and it looks mechanical in its sense. They did a really good job with that, I must say. I have seen some funny videos of people attaching chairs and stuff and sitting
mm-hmm.
in them, and like all sorts of stuff. They're doing all sorts of fun stuff. One person attached a bunch of atlases to it
Yep.
and unfolded it, and the stuff you see on Reddit. But I think it is a cool ship personally for me for being exposed cargo and stuff. I think it just costs too much for the risk you're taking in hauling stuff. The other, and it doesn't have much defense. It's got like one turret, which is, I mean, it's a hauling ship. It's not going to be, you know, whatever. Anyways, moving on. We had the Gray Cat UTV come out, which is just another ground vehicle, which I don't feel like there's a lot of content around ground vehicles. I do think it's interesting. And like it's just an like look, it's a $35 LTI token. Go out and get it.
No, don't spend
Like,
your money on shit like that. Who the fuck needs an
Buy
LTI
it. No,
token?
okay, don't do it. Yeah, you're gonna end up
It's like,
frustrated with the game. No. Yeah, who needs an LTI token? I bought one because it'll fit in the back of a Shiv, interestingly enough, and it can do a full 360 in the back there. It'll turn around in there just fine, no problems. Trust me. Uh, you can throw a box on the back, so it's great for those bunker runs. You know, drive out of the back with you and a friend, or you can attach a seat or whatever you want to on the little cargo grid in the back there. It'll take a one skew. So I think it's a good little vehicle to have if you want to throw into one of your vehicles that has a little loading bay and go do bunker runs with if you have to park out far from somewhere. It did seem to drive fine. It does do a little bit of drifting, so get out there and have some fun with it. And
yeah, I just
it's
need them to
like
rework the driving mechanics. They're pretty rough right now.
they are a little bit. Like the ground vehicles are a little awkward sometimes. The like I said, the ship team is killing it. That thing has a bunch of little hidden compartments on it that have tiny little, I don't know, size zero components. I thought was really interesting. A lot of good animations and all of that too. So like I said, the resources are going to what's making them money, and that's the ship team. And I really think the ship team has been absolutely killing it lately. The ships that we've seen come out, along with the audio team, the audio, the new sound effects and stuff that we're getting with these ships, really give them character and attitude. And it seems to fit the application what that ship is being used for. One of my favorite ships right now is the Shiv, and that's a Gray's Market ship, so it's all thrown together. Every time you move it around and stuff, you're hearing little rattles and stuff around the cabin in the ship. It flies really good. It's fast. It's got lots of character. The sounds it makes are it's fun. It's really an immersive
Yeah,
experience for
but
me if
so
you
in
ever
the
want
new
to.
ships, what do you think is going to be coming out? Because they've been talking about potentially an origin ship they coming out. They've been there's a few hidden
So
surprises we've got coming out
yeah,
here in the
so we
next
haven't seen anything from Outland for quite some time, I think, and same with Origin, right? We haven't
mhm.
really seen many updates with Origin. I wonder if they're redoing some of those ships just because they have a lot of little aspects and trinkets with them. So I assume that they'll be doing some kind of gold passes on some of them.
They
I
also
don't
did
know.
mention a new Kruger.
Ooh, another Kruger, huh?
Hmm.
I do have an Alpha Wolf. I love the design of the L21 and L22. I think that's it's just elegant. And again, the sound team killed it with that one as well. And the animations. When that first came out, that was when I really noticed the difference in the animations. The getting into the cabin of the Wolf series, um, just like superb. It feels
Hmm.
really good getting in and out. And then when you first light off the engines, the sound that comes out of that. Um, the guns, the Gatling guns, and the energy guns that are with that also all sound good. I don't know. Like I haven't really kept up on rumors of what's coming out. I've paid attention to some of their weekly updates and seeing their sneak peeks. Them showing the command deck to the ironclad, so the top center where the command deck is, and just below that, seeing the feet to the Kraken. So you can see they've got some pretty good progress on the Kraken, and that thing looks like it's going to be absolutely massive. I assume it's probably gained some size because of, it's meant to be kind of like a carrier for a bunch of ships to land on. Um, so I'm interested to see the Kraken come out whenever that is. I guess next
That's next
year
year,
or
yeah.
maybe,
That's not going
yeah,
to be this year. I mean, it's made a lot of progress, but
yeah.
it's still too close. Yeah,
There's a lot that's going into it, and like I said, the ship team seems to be firing on all cylinders. They seem to
they always
have
are.
been getting, like, we've seen what they've done with the RSI ships and the RSI kit and the changes they've made. When the Perseus came out, like it seemed like they had learned a bunch, and that fed over into the Polaris. They're doing a little bit of rework with the Polaris. I think they changed some of the lighting and some of the labeling on the Polaris, which was small, like quality of life stuff. But like the labeling and everything on the Perseus, it was it like just navigating that ship is pretty easy, and it looks good. It doesn't feel like a bunker like the Polaris is, but that was the vision in designing the Polaris, right? So I do have to say that the Perseus is the one ship that I purchased that feels worth all of the money that I had spent to get it. I'd
Really,
melted
I
some
don't think
ships
any
to
of the
get it.
ships I've bought are worth the money, but that's just me.
That
But
yeah, well, yeah, each to
I
its
mean, I
own,
think
but it
it
fits
was a
the
good,
role that it was
yeah.
designed for.
I can't really say it's a good purchase, but I got one too. Um,
Yeah,
but no, okay. So I guess to kind of sum this up, so are you looking forward to 4.8, or are
I
you?
haven't
The
really
other question I was going to pair
four.
with that is, are you going to reinstall the game for 4.8?
I might reinstall the game for 4.8. I'll probably hold off on doing so. Um, I know me personally, I want to get into the new missions in there, especially if it involves FPS. Because, like I said, I'm a heavy FPS player. That's what I really engage with. But if it, like I said, the complexity of the missions that have been coming out have been the fun part of the game. And typically when a new mission comes out, it's gonna work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I may just reinstall and play that, but I don't know how long I'll be around just because of all the other aspects of the game I've you know experienced. And until they make some changes to how grindy it is or rewarding those things are, and some of the quality of life around those, I don't know if I'll continue playing for those aspects just because of
Yeah,
I've been burned a lot of times from those things.
I think right
And
now my biggest thing is the grind obviously is a huge problem because it does not feel enjoyable, and it's made worse by bugs in game that, like we've talked about, can ruin your progress, can take things away from you, can add
mhm,
an indefinite amount of time to whatever it is you're trying to do. um i I don't see, one of the things that I'm hoping fixes a lot of problems and maybe helps smooth out the rest is this transport refactor. Now, granted, it doesn't affect freight elevators, and that's a really big problem because those are such an integral part of the game. And that's where I scratch my head and I go, they probably couldn't have foreseen the guy leaving unless they did and they knew and he had been vocal about it. Anyways, but the guy leaving who designed that has been such a problem, and they really do need to fix that sooner than later, or just stop using it as a mechanic you guys want us to use with most of what we do. Like, I know it probably sounds sucky for you guys, seeing it's how you were trying to implement it as this big thing, but it doesn't work and it breaks all the time. Now, I will say I've noticed it being better recently, so maybe they did tweak something, and it's been a little bit better, but it still breaks. And so yeah,
mhm.
I hope this transfer factor make things a little bit better, but I don't see that fixing a lot of key issues, and that definitely doesn't fix the grind or the amount of
I,
RNG that's in game right now.
I just wondered what this refactor for transportation really is going to entail. Um,
Elevators, trams.
well, yeah, but I'm saying like with that gameplay, that's just all that all just takes time to get to where I want to be.
That's not gameplay. It's making sure what they want you to use to get from your hangar to the lobby, to
Mhm.
get, from your hab to the lobby, whatever it may be. That needs to work properly because one of the things that's been frustrating for a very long time is you exit
Yeah.
your hab, you can't get an elevator down to the lobby. Well, now you're stuck. Like, unless you
What it
backspace, like, yeah.
Yeah, whatever patchwork they put in seemed to have been working for me for a long time now.
It's been better for sure.
Yeah, yeah, it's like I haven't been killed by an elevator in quite some time. I've pushed out of
No,
one for a bit.
pushed out of
Um,
one still happens regularly. But that's the problem with desync and then just player behavior. Please,
mhm.
everyone, stop rushing into an elevator or assuming that
Yeah,
there's not somebody there. We should all know better by now in this game. But most games you just bump into the player and that would be it, right? In this game, you bump into the player, they get ejected out in the middle of space, and it's just a bad time. So
yeah.
that is probably for me still the biggest issue I encounter with elevators. But yes, they have gotten a lot better in the last year and a half.
Hmm. Yeah, they seem to work with very. a lot less issues. Let's say like 90% less issues, in my opinion, of what I've seen. Like, the doors opening, the elevator not being there, or whatever. There is one weird thing that has been happening, and that's like if you like sometimes you open the door and you're standing close nearby, you just get sucked into the elevator or whatever. That's happened multiple occasions where I just warped inside the elevator when the doors open, and for whatever reason, that's a maybe another desync issue and miscommunication between the server and the client as to where the player is standing. Um, and maybe that's a calculation error or issue with the accuracy of that.
Yeah. So I don't know. I
That's
guess
what.
it's more hope that things get
Yeah.
better. But I think my biggest, and I've been saying this for a while now, and I think now it's just gotten to a breaking point of like, I don't want to do that amount of grind, and it's not fun. I don't enjoy the amount of clutter in my inventory. I'm not enjoying the mining experience right now. I really wanted to go mining. I have 3 mining ships now. I have 2 moles. Why? Because fuck it, why not? Money to burn because
Hmm.
it's just useless. I got the teacher's mole and I got the mole, and honestly, I don't use either right now.
Yeah.
And the other things that I've been wanting to do, keep hoping that they'll be fixed with the next patch and the next patch and the next patch, which is QV stations. Those aren't great. It's been fun to run contested zones just to get the data, the comp boards, because there's nothing else in there.
Hmm.
Sometimes not even enemies. Um, I think that we're unfortunately getting very close to being back towards the massive jank we were in 4.0 and 4.1 before they start fixing things with 4.2. And if that's a natural cycle we have to go through, so be it. But unfortunately, in an MMO that needs players around to survive, you're just going to be lowering your player numbers.
Yeah.
You'll always have that peak when a patch drops, people want to get in, check it out, and then you'll have the inevitable drop off because people get frustrated. There's not enough for them to do. It's not working. You know, fill in the blank with whatever we've had having to deal with for a while now. So like at the end of the day, people who are like, "Oh, you guys are just haters." No, I just don't appreciate being gaslit, and I'm not going to lie to myself about the state of the game. I personally
Yeah.
don't find the just I haven't even crafted anything yet because I got so frustrated with the mining and realizing that wait, I need how much of this? Which it's
Well.
not that much, granted, but how much
Yeah.
time do I have to spend? Because when you get 0.012 of an SCU off of a rock and you're like, okay, if I were to just go refine that now, I'd get 0.00 something of that whatever it's not rewarding. It's not fun right now, and it's not that I think the mining mechanic is not fun. I think mining in itself is fun. I like playing with the lasers, getting it into the window. I find it way more engaging than salvaging, and I love salvaging too. I think mining could be something I could really get into,
Hmm.
but I get really frustrated when I come across a rock I can't break. Really frustrated. I don't like that. And then I get really annoyed when I hand everything in and I see how much I'm going to get back for it. Like you said multiple times, and I agree with you, but this has been years now that Star Citizen doesn't really respect players' time. And there is that balance of they need people in the game testing stuff out, doing it repeatedly. So yes, I kind of understand to a certain extent the high amounts of rep you need for certain things, but come on guys, it takes us 20 minutes to load in, get our gear ready, get to a hangar, get our ship out, and
Hmm.
some
Exactly. Just what baby Jesus is hitting on right there
yeah,
too.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not, and it's yes, we understand the space sim, and we understand that in the future things will hopefully be better. Blip touched on this way earlier. He was like, the day you can log out of your org capital ship and log back into that, yes, that will be a new dawn for this game because that just by itself is going to help speed things along. I think it's cool now that sometimes you spawn in your hangar, but that doesn't help you at the beginning of a patch where they just wiped off all your ammo and meds, so you got to run back anyways. So maybe
Hmm.
that's not the time to spawn us in a hangar. Maybe, anyways, it's just little things where it's like, we
Yeah.
understand you guys are trying, but it's clumsy, coming out
Look,
clumsy. Yeah,
look, we're in the alpha stage. We're supposed to be like playing and testing, right? Because we're testing. Sure, a lot of people may be missing that fact, like hey, I need to get in and just have fun the entire time, blah blah blah. Like it's a complete game. Unfortunately, it's not. So I get we're in the testing phase because it's an alpha. We're now 1.0. It's not a released game. It's not a released product. It's not a final product. Maybe decrease some of those play loops. Time needed for some of those play loops, so you can actually get people completing that play loop to get as many data points again as you can
I agree.
to test these things out. Like maybe speed things up for us. And maybe that'll make it more enjoyable. Like you've been tweaking stuff up and down for the longest time, when it comes to ship balancing and combat and balancing that all out. I know there's going to continue to be more changes in that, and I understand that as a player and investor in the game or backer of the game. So when it comes to this crafting thing, if you want more people to be engaged with it, because I've engaged a little bit with it, but now I'm done with it because I've been through it, but I don't have the time investment or want to invest the time into it. Maybe speed that up for people and make it more enjoyable for them and make them want um, to complete those loops so you can figure stuff out and work on balancing out that time. Maybe when you implement something, err on the side of caution and make it faster than it needs to be, and then slow it down over time and just communicate that with the player base.
Find a
And I
balance,
think
yeah,
people would be,
because we all know there's
yeah,
a wipe coming in 1.0 no matter what. And we know there's probably going to be another wipe or two before then, which is fine, and I
and
expect it, and I welcome it.
yeah,
Hey,
and like
welcome in.
people have said earlier, they didn't want to invest the time because they're afraid of losing that stuff. So why?
Right,
Why
right.
would they
Hold up
invest the
one
time in doing it?
second. I just
Yep,
got
I see.
double rated.
Oh shit!
What's up, everybody? What's up, Synatic? What's up, Sfantle? Welcome in, everyone. Let's get the shout outs going. Sorry, we're in the middle of the podcast talking about Star Citizen. Thank you all so much for the raid. Tool. Everybody, please go show them some love. Oh, somebody did it for me. Thank you, whoever that was. Um,
So yeah, I think a lot of the issue that like myself and I've seen other people express here in chat is the time commitment necessary to do these things.
mhm.
And I think that's turning a lot of people away. So please just speed things up, make it a bit easier for now, communicate that change, and then find a balance later because you're implementing things and you want people to try them out. And, like I said, get as many data points, figure out the bugs, fix those. So I think that's a good way to progress and move forward and to bring the fun back because a lot of this is tedious, laborious work to do. And when I get home from work and I have 3 hours to play the game and I can barely get out of my hangar or whatever because of whatever bugs, and I can only go do one mission because of maybe I've run into several issues, whatever that be, it doesn't really make me want to play the game because
No,
I'm not, I don't feel like I'm accomplishing anything.
no, I get that.
Mhm.
Sorry. Quick parentheses for people who are just coming in. We're that is just background while we talk about Star Citizen. We're wrapping up our talk about 4.7 and what's coming in 4.8. Well, there is one more topic I want to talk to about real quick after this. And
Yeah.
again, thank you everybody for the raid, which is we got to talk about, well, two things actually. We're going to talk about a little bit of drama because it goes into the next topic, which is Squadron 42. So, who has noticed that there's been some rumors, and apparently, this has been verified. People with old buyback tokens that they had been saving no longer have access to them. Now, I did look this up a little bit, and apparently, they do tell you to not use it as a storage. And there was apparently a post by someone from CIG on Twitch, can't remember their name right now, who said that they thought that that was weird because it should only apply to things that had something physical attached to it. Like if you had a game package where they sent you, I don't remember what the rewards were, but let's just say it's like a t-shirt or a hat. Well, you can't do the buyback on that anymore because, well, they wouldn't resend you the hat, or maybe they don't make that hat or t-shirt or whatever it might have been anymore.
Yep.
So the add-on situation, and the reason why it's making a lot of noise, is because, well, people were trying to hold on to their Squadron 42 package so that they could buy back to that. But those are disappearing now. That's why I have never gotten rid of my starter package, which technically has my Squadron 42 game attached to it. And until Squadron 42 comes out, I ain't doing anything with that thing. So there is that little bit of drama. So I understand some people are upset. I personally don't like that stuff, so I never really use it. But yeah, I didn't know if you were aware of this, Cody. Did you know?
I had caught wind of it. I saw it on Reddit. Somebody had talked about it, and I think it's very unfortunate. I just wish it was better communicated. And like you said, there was a forewarning, right, not to keep things in that area because you do lose buybacks.
Mm-hmm.
So if they, maybe it's just a mistake on their part, but in the future, I just wish there was more communication. And I think that's kind of been a little bit of a common message in this, right? More communication. Just communicate with us. I know they communicate with us a lot, but communicate some of the reason behind.
Well, they communicate with
your
us a lot, but
choices.
it's not always good communication. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. So that
let's work on the
maybe in order for them to
quality.
listen to us, to try to make that a bit more pointed, so they understand like what we mean, right? So when it comes to good communication, you know, uh, in terms of a game that's being in development and stuff, let us, make us, or inform us that, hey, this isn't the final state of something. We're implementing this. They're, like you said earlier, they're like, the building blocks only allow us to do this at this current time, and this is the way we can implement it so we can get it to you. But in the future, there's going to be quite a few changes that come along to this mechanic, and there will be balancing along with that. So
So to
here,
go
play with
off
this,
what,
enjoy this. We're going to get the bugs out of the way, and then there's going to be future changes with this.
yeah. So one thing that, I mean, there's always that disclaimer of there's always going to be future changes. Nothing that you see right now will be the way it is down the line. Absolutely. But, and this is the point I think they need to start doing more of, which is just say when. You guys, they did state last year, like Viking said, that there were going to be some major changes and that some of these packages were going to go away. That's fine. But they also said that they would give dates and a heads up, as and it's see and right now it's like, okay, well, you guys said that we'd get a heads up. There was no heads up. That doesn't mean that I personally like these systems. I think they're just a bad idea. You shouldn't be holding on to a token in a buyback system in an alpha. I just don't think that's a good idea. But I understand the people who did and who are frustrated, because you should at least be given a heads up, not just, oh yeah, in the future, and more of a, this is the heads up that this is going to happen, and then here's the next heads up that this is the date on which it will happen. So if there's
Mhm.
anything you guys wanted to do to make adjustments, this is your last chance. I think that's fair. That's above board. That gives people
That
the
should
time to make decisions. But
should definitely come out in a newsletter to
something,
everybody that
yeah. And if
something.
you
Yeah.
missed it, that's on you. But I don't think there was a date given on when they were going to start removing these things. For me, the ones with physical items in it just makes sense. Like if it's a pack that they were offering 10 years ago, and it had some, like I said, some stupid t-shirt or like a figurine, yeah, they're not going to keep making those for 10 years or hold a whole bunch in storage, because maybe you get rid of that. And if it was
Mhm.
a limited time offer, then that shouldn't even count as a buyback token, and then you avoid that whole confusion altogether. So,
Mhm.
but the reason why I want to talk about this is because, and I've been wanting to have these conversations more about Squadron, and I know you got to go, so we'll be quick, but
No, you're fine.
there's there was Lloyd Roberts getting interviewed on 9 News Australia.
Saw
If you
that.
didn't watch that, you should go check it out. There's really not much being said. He's super vague about everything. He said there's a milestone, but he never ever says what the fuck the milestone is, which thanks, marketing. Sorry, that was my own frustration. My only
Yeah.
frustration is when they start gaslighting you. It's like, there's a milestone. What's the milestone? Oh, well, it's a milestone. If you don't have something specific to mention, then please shut the fuck up. But anyways,
Yeah.
and because it's just hot air at that point. But
Yeah. It makes no. Yeah. Yeah.
but the reason why I've been interested in this is because I'm curious if this is the beginning of the marketing push for Squadron. If this is, for me, this felt kind of like a let's just dip our toes in the water, see what happens, see what we get up, see what kind of comes up, and then we'll start ramping things up. Because we also know that the next step is they are going to the Level Up convention here in LA at the end of the month at the end of April to
Giggling at Wash Bear's comment.
do what we don't know.
Yeah. I do have to say that recently I've seen a ton of Star Citizen advertising on the apps and platforms that I come into contact with, and that may be
So
a targeted ad towards me because I play, but I have seen a ton, and that had to do with the Free Fly event as well. So it all kind of goes in hand, right? Him being interviewed, the Free Fly, the advertising, so that there is some kind of push to get the name out there right now.
so is this a part of a bigger push to get Squadron 42 out and potentially announce a date? Because here's the thing, is they said we hope to get it out in 2026. There hasn't been an official hard yes, this is coming, because we just don't have a date. So until then, it really doesn't matter. The reason why I'm starting to scratch my head is it's usually a 4 to 6 month push for a marketing, right? If we start now, we are releasing the game end of summer, basically September, which again, I know not everybody agrees with this, but there is a cultural event coming up, which is the release of GTA 6. And that is what? October? No, it's November. November 2026.
Mhm.
And yes, it's going to be a console exclusive at first, but many people on PC have consoles. Many people are going to buy a console to play this game. That will
Mhm.
naturally take them away from other games. So let's just look at it this way. Let's say, okay, only 10% of Star Citizen players have a console. I don't believe that for a second, but let's just say arbitrarily there's only 10%. Let's say 10%, within that 10%, 80% of them play GTA 6. You just lost a whole bunch of people potentially because they're going to be playing the game. So the point I'm trying to make is I hope we're not gearing up for an October release of Squadron 42, even though I guess I'll freaking take it. As long as we're not releasing within 2-3 weeks of GTA 6, whatever. But then again, they've pushed back GTA 6 so much now that there's definitely a world where they go, oh yeah, by the way, we're gonna release it on PC sooner than anticipated. So that would screw you over. Anyways, I think CIG right now it's kind of make or break for them as to whether or not they're going to release Squadron. I think we either need an announcement in the next 3 to 5 weeks, or they're probably going to sit on it and it won't come out until the beginning of 2027.
I have my doubts because we're already a quarter into the year, and we really haven't seen any official news. I'm thinking more of the marketing has been to get people to buy into SC for more revenue.
Yeah, because they need to
That's my
finish
opinion
off
on it.
Squadron and Star Engine.
Yep.
Because they're not
Yep.
selling Squadron 42 packages right now.
Well, what do we know about Star Engine? Like, are they done developing
We
Star
know
Engine?
Maelstrom. Well, if Squadron is feature complete, then the engine theoretically should have been done. Now, whether they made upgrades
Yeah.
to the engine since then, probably. I hope so. We'll see. We know about Maelstrom. We know about
Mhm.
Starcloth. All these features of the Star Engine that are still supposed to make their way into SC, which we hope are already in Squadron 42. Now, I think Star Engine it just kind of sits as its own side thing. You can't really integrate that into um just anything else, because I think Star Engine is basically done, to be honest. I mean, they're still working on Planet Tech, and that might be the advances in Star Engine specifically for Star Citizen and not Squadron 42, or maybe the future iterations of Squadron 42 and not currently what's going on. But yeah, I'm sorry. Real quick, thank you, Fatal Tater, for the raid. I'm sorry. I've been in my rants. But thank you very much. Let me make sure you got a shout out. But yeah, I'm really, again, I'm so looking forward to Squadron 42. I have been looking forward to it forever now. Oh, okay, you did get shut. Good. But
I'm a
I
big
don't
proponent of
know if
single
it's
player
coming out.
games.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I love single player games. I'm looking forward to Squadron 42 and what it has to offer. Based off the trailer we saw, I can't make a huge conclusion, but I'm hoping, much like you were talking about earlier, that the writing is good and the story is good. So,
Wait, hold up. I think
uh,
we have a really important question.
oh shit,
When will we get a racing variant of the Polaris?
oh, next week. I'll write CIG.
That is one of the surprise ships that's coming
it's a
out.
racing variant. The Polaris. You remove the torpedoes and it goes an extra 100 meters a second.
Type 3890. I mean, there's a lot of ships that need, like, one of the I touched on this briefly earlier when we were talking about the Ironclad coming out. Like, you guys are releasing the command module on the Ironclad before you're reworking it on the ship that's already been released. So just sometimes it feels ass backwards. But like, I can understand their thinking is just, well, we're working on this ship because we get it working here, but then you guys are still going to have to go back and rework it on the Caterpillar. I don't know. Sometimes I question the workflow. I'm not an expert in that, so maybe there is some logic behind it and a good reason for it. It's just we don't see it. That question got you a warning on Inforunners. Jesus Christ! Like I've watched their podcast. They have a good podcast, but like that's gotta have a sense of humor.
Speaking of ships, I've been talking with Salzi. He told me they're already working on the Aurora MK3. So that's where they're putting their resources.
Well, that's my thing. Is like I pointed this out when I reacted to the Aurora Mark II. Is like, guys, I just want to point it out that the first starter ship got a rework before the game came out. Just let that sink in for a second. Like, they reworked their starter ship before release, and it does fine. We're not going to stay on it forever. It's just just a small little detail. I find it funny. Like, like Dead said, it's good to have a sense of humor. It's important.
Yeah,
laugh at things.
The way I look at that is how much they've learned and how much the philosophy has changed when creating ships. And then the RSI package in itself has really come to fruition, like I had mentioned earlier with the Perseus and the Polaris. So they really have a design language down for their manufacturers. And again, I'm going to praise the ship team. The ship team has been doing a really good job. So I think the Aurora MK2 was needed for where they want the game to be.
So yeah, I think to go back to Squadron is, like Dead says, I think it is an indicator of things to come. But then again, I thought that when they originally took Squadron 42 off the store, 2-3 years ago now, whenever the hell that was. So there's always little indicators. Like, they are trying to take steps towards releasing this game, obviously. But, I don't think anyone thought we'd still be waiting for the game 2.5 years later after we got the word on feature complete. I think that one's thrown us all off a little bit. I think we've all been holding the line a little longer than we thought we would.
Feature complete, the features are there for what they want to use, the story to be and the mechanics that they need, of course. Now they have to go through and fulfill that story, or whatever it is. They need to go through and develop the rest of that. So from what he was saying, it sounds like they can do a playthrough, but there's still a lot of stuff that they have to go back and make sure is right? Because you're curating a story with a single player game, and you want it to play a certain way for everybody. So, because you're trying to tell a story, and that story has to be,
And I think Lord Roberts, even though Wing Commander was a total failure in cinemas, I still love that movie. But even I think he has a vision. I think he's had the time to fully flesh it out. I think
Hmm.
they've put in a lot of effort to getting something that will be enjoyable. It'll definitely be cinematic. Now, I think what we'll see complaints about are the amount of cutscenes. I love cutscenes, so fire away, Lord Roberts. I'm all for it, but I know not everybody likes that. It's like if you could just give me like basically it's like, oh yeah, it's a 40-hour game and there's like 1 hour gameplay, but the rest is a movie. I'll be like, yeah, I'll do it. Fuck it. All right, let's get it. Let's get into
There's
it. But that's
skip.
me.
There's friction. I was about to say that's kind of the polar opposite of my friend group.
But I know there are people
The
who don't follow the
philosophy in
story because they don't care.
when it comes to like a single player game like Squadron 42 is going to be, I'm definitely going to be, paying attention to the story. When it comes to MMOs for me, like MMORPGs, like currently playing Elder Scrolls Online for the first time, I'm skipping all the story content because I'm trying to play the game and learn the game. So like it for me, single player games, it's fun to go with the story because I like that aspect of it, right? Because it's like a movie that you get to play and experience um, in a more immersive way than just sitting and watching. You get to interact with it, right? So uh, I'm looking forward to what Squadron 42 has to offer. I missed the window for getting, concierge and, being, getting a ticket for Squadron 42.
Oh
So
yeah.
I don't have that. So I'm going to have to purchase the game on my own. It's not like I had one sitting in a buyback that I missed out on or something. So,
I've been sitting on
um,
mine. I mean, I think the game will release at like 60, $70.
mhm.
Probably full price, which is it's I think $60 is a much better look and way more reasonable, especially since it's not like they need to pay back investors for this game they just made. No, we freaking backed it, so you guys don't need to gouge people on the prices. And
Mhm.
I think that'll do way better for their game. But hey, that's just me. The other
I
thing
would be
is,
happy. Sorry to interrupt, but
you're good.
I'd be happy if they gave me some kind of discount coupon or something for backing uh, Star Citizen instead of having to pay
That
full
would be
price out of it.
super reasonable and a
Yeah.
very nice gesture on their part. I'm
Mhm.
not convinced they'll do it, but if they do, I will be the first to applaud and say, well done.
Everybody.
Everybody, we're back. All right. Now, what do we think about that squadron? Hmm.
I'm looking
Uh,
forward to it.
yeah, I just want it to come out this year, man. If I'm being honest, I'm just having a like full honesty. This is what I believe 100%. Like no jokes, no persona, whatever. I just want to
Mhm.
fucking play Squadron 42. Like,
I'm with you.
oh, man, I love space operas. I loved Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3. And Riot, if you're still here, go finish the goddamn games. They're so good. Um,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I bought the deluxe edition or whatever, like or Centennial. I can't remember what edition I bought on Steam, but it's got all the stuff for it. I haven't played through Mass Effect, but I was told to
Oh, dude,
by
it's so
Rika
good,
Kitty
man.
as well to go do it. So,
Dude, you're looking for
um,
something to play right now while you're on a Star Citizen break? You go play me some Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 on stream, okay? All right, and I will be
all
there
right,
every single
you
minute
better.
going, telling you every worst
Oh.
decision you can possibly make, okay? Because that's what chat does to me, so I got to spread the love,
Yeah.
pay it forward. But I get single player is not for everybody. Like I know like Dead is a huge PvP guy, loves playing with others. Like I totally get that.
Yeah,
It's not for
and
everyone. But I just
I
can't wait
totally
for it, man.
I I
And
totally
that's another
understand
point. Bert's got another
and
point.
what Dead Fragrance said. You may not like single player, but I get that you want Squadron 42 to come out so they can focus on Star Citizen and the multiplayer aspect of things. And I feel that because, throughout this podcast, I've mentioned my frustrations with the game and the just the game breaking bugs or the time wasting bugs is what I'm calling them. Stuff that sets you back to square one, that completely removes all your progress in whatever it is that you're doing. And I'd like to see them square a lot of that up because it'll respect your time as a player.
Well, here's what I think
So
will
there's
happen. when Squadron 42 gets released. All right, here's my
Mhm.
predictions for the future. All right, ready? Everybody ready? Hold on to
Crystal
your
ball. Your crystal ball out.
hold on to your butts. So I think what'll happen is Squadron 42 gets released. All right, before Squadron 42 gets released, and I think we've already kind of started to see that devs transition over to Star Citizen. They start bringing in features that exist in Squadron 42. Cool. We've already been through this phase 2 years ago. They stopped, went back to working on Squadron 42, and now we're back in this phase again. So they're gonna start working on things for the PU. Squadron will generate whatever money it generates. I'm hoping that it sells at least 2 to 5 million copies within the first month. I think that would be a big plus for Star Citizen. You know, they're not going to do Crimson Desert numbers. They're not going to do GTA numbers because there's just a lot of bad blood along with the game, right? They have to prove themselves. You know, they have to prove that the 15-year wait was worth it, which is a huge bar to get over, by the way. And I always say, and I said this earlier to you, which is Star Citizen CIG's biggest problem is the fact that they've been doing this for 15 years. It's not that what
Yeah.
they're doing is bad. You know, we can agree, disagree, criticize certain choices, but their biggest issue is it's been going on for 15 years. So the what'll happen is Squadron 42 comes out, it'll make its money, people will play it, there'll be buzz around it. Some people will enjoy the time away from the verse to enjoy this game. Hopefully it's more than 40 hours. Hopefully there's a lot of maybe side content or just things you can do to kind of like maybe, you know, maybe there'll be some cargo hauling in it. Maybe there'll be some need for salvaging. We'll see. But,
Mhm.
you know, spend a little extra time with some side stuff, really take in all the lore there. And then that'll give time for a lot of those features that need to come into from Squadron into Star Citizen to come in. The game will break a few times, then it'll start to get better. And then once Star Citizen is in a stable place with a lot of the features they're looking for, we'll probably get another 2 systems in between now and then. We'll finish off that 5 they want for 1.0. They'll get it closer
Mm.
to a 1.0 phase, and then they'll start shifting everybody back to Squadron 42 Episode 2. And that's what I see happening. That's honestly the most
I think once they
hey,
get the
I'm okay with
Genesis
that,
tool,
Viking. I'll take it.
the Genesis is their tool for making planets and stuff. Once
Yes.
they um, once they get that entirely implemented and working, the systems will pump out real quick. We're gonna start seeing that here with Nyx real soon, I think. So, and then they're gonna have to go back and touch on Pyro and Stan at some point, right? Because they did mention that the planets in those are going to have to go through the Genesis engine, and there's going to be changes and stuff made there. So once they get that all figured out, they get some modularity or whatever to like the buildings and stuff for POIs, which they already kind of have, right? A lot of the POIs already look a lot alike. Once
That we
they
need
create a bit
some
more some more
diversity
variability.
in structures,
Yeah.
which we got kind of in Pyro, but that's
Hmm.
just diverse
They're
compared to Stanton.
yeah.
Not
I mean,
necessarily within
they're
Pyro. Like,
they're working on that sort of kit, right? That's all stuff that has to be made and created, and that takes time. And there's design decisions on that because a lot of that's designed around the gameplay that's going to be in that area, right? So eventually, that'll pick up. Much like I'm comparing this to the ship team, right? As they build those kits out, things will start to pick up pace. The design language will start to come through, and they'll start firing in all cylinders in that aspect. So I'm looking forward to the progression of this. You know, again, hopefully with the advent of Squadron 42 and then finishing that, that'll give them more resources to figure out the multiplayer aspect of that, the server meshing, and fixing all the annoying bugs that we deal with on a daily basis.
so as you were talking, I
Hmm.
agree with you 100% that, you know, there's going to be a boost. It's like we're going to hit the turbo on Star Citizen for a little bit. But and I can't believe I'm about to use Lloyd Roberts' words. I kind of agree with him on this, at least in theory. which is he said himself that once Squadron is out, the feature teams should only be living in the verse because the feature teams won't be needed for Squadron 42 episode 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to stay within the same tech. Now, because we all, for some of us, or those of us who have paid attention to who Lord Roberts actually is, we should all take that statement with a fat grain of salt, because this is the man notorious for, you know what, we should do this differently. Let's start over. So I don't put it past him that after Squadron 42 comes out, going into Squadron 42 episode 2, he goes, you know what we really need? We need to be able to fly, just some stupid idea. I don't know. Like, maybe, no, we need to be able to ride worms in Star Squadron 42 episode 2, because they're going to be on the Tatooine like planet. I want them riding worms or fighting worms like in Dune. So maybe they bring people or they build a new freaking feature. I don't know. That was a terrible fucking example, but the point still stands of, like, there's nothing stopping him from being like, oh, well, you know what we should do now? Shut the fuck up, Chris. Just write out the story. Just do the goddamn thing,
Well,
all right? No more features.
I think that leads more into the time frame that you were talking of, right? The biggest issue with this game is how long it's been in development. So, a lot of that time, of course, was developing the engine and tweaking an engine to fit their needs and what their vision was. And I think we've seen a lot of that come to fruition. I think they're in a comfortable spot, especially with Squadron 42 being quote unquote feature complete. So those features are in the engine. They're working on implementing those into gameplay mechanics for Squadron, and those will come over to Star Citizen, and they have to figure out how to implement those into the multiplayer space and the server meshing and make sure that's all working correctly. So again, to me, it's just a time of the time it takes to develop something new. Once you develop that, creating the tools that you need to work with that, and then creating the kit to make all that stuff happen. Once you get, it starts to build, the building blocks start to build, and then things in production gets quicker. And I think we've seen that, right? We've seen a pickup in production for content for Star Citizen, with new mission types and other things coming to the game, with crafting and the changes in mining and the ships in general. It's been pretty interesting to see the pickup in content coming, and I'm looking forward to how they can continue that pace, or seeing that pace increase.
And we've seen the pace increase at times, and they've definitely been able, like, we can feel it. And there's
Hmm.
always a delay, right? Because it's not they swap over to Star Citizen and all of a sudden the next day they're pumping out something new. No, there's a delay. They come over to Star Citizen, they work on their feature, 2-3 months later, it comes out for us. So
Hmm.
we'll start to feel that push and that rush again, getting back into more coming out for Star Citizen. I think we're starting to feel it already now. As much as we're unhappy with kind of the current state of the game, I still think, like I said, these are stepping stones. We may not like every single stone we step on, but it's hopefully building towards something better.
Hmm.
And as long as it's not, we're going down the wrong path, and too much sin or whatever, the balance will come anyways. That's not for.
Yeah, I don't think we've been going down the wrong path, right? I've been having more and more fun with the game because they've been adding features to the game and content to the game. So things have been getting better in the sense of there are more fun and new interesting things to do in the game. Have they always been implemented well? No. Do they work on and tweak them? Yes. So I'm hoping they take a step back and they work on the balance of things and make it more fun. I mean, I can log into the game and go and find something fun to do with friends, but how much work do I want to put in to get to that fun? And is it something that I want to do repetitively, if that makes sense, right?
Mhm.
Like you had mentioned earlier with the QV station. Like, how many times do I want to have to do it until I get a good run or a good server to where it actually works and I can accomplish the task I wanted at hand. So I think that's what they need to work on is the consistency of those things, and then continue their building the features and bringing them to and adding the content around that. So
No, I agree. So yeah, I don't know. To wrap it up, 4.7 mixed bag, some positive, a lot of frustration. 4.8, we'll see if it really makes anything better. I think at least the transport refactor hopefully should smooth a couple things out, but again, I think most of the frustration comes from desync inventory issues and just missions just not working. At least for me personally, that's where I find most of my frustration.
it's
Um,
mainly, yeah, mainly the biggest sticking point for me is inventory and missions breaking.
yeah, I mean that's really frustrating because that's just such a big part of the game.
Yeah.
So now certain people who play certain styles in this game or who play certain who have their own game loops, like pirates probably won't feel certain issues as much. Racers won't see certain issues as much. The desync is going to affect them for sure. Same with low flying.
Mhm.
Um, if you're a cargo hauler, life is probably pretty good right now, except for the freight elevator issues. Which, as long as you're doing it from hangar to hangar, you're okay. It's really when you're getting into a QV or a contested zone or um, a mining facility down on a moon or a planet, that's when you really run into the freight elevator issues. They seem to be consistently working pretty well in hangars. But
Mhm.
yeah, no, so certain game loops aren't going to feel as many issues as others. But people who are trying to play out the missions and the content, yeah, there's some problems, and I don't think it's normal for you to have to jump 10 servers to find one that works. So, and I don't think that's an argument against. Well, you should just try another server. It's like we all do that, but how many do
Mhm.
we have to try, and what is the what is acceptable? I don't think having to go through 15 is acceptable. So yeah, so I've been really enjoying playing Arma with you and the boys. I've been having a lot of fun learning the infusion tools and making my own stuff, and I
Mhm.
hope to have something for you guys to play here in the next couple weeks that I've created fully from scratch. I've gotten a lot of really good ideas on like game modes to try and create within for Forger, like my own DayZ, maybe a little bit of an RP thing, or like just a more traditional survival without the zombies. I'm learning all the tools for it, so like that's been fun and that's been keeping me occupied. And really, yeah, sometimes you just need to start system break. So I hope you don't take a break for too long. I hope you get back into it at least with maybe 4.7.2 or 4.8. Um, I'm
Unfor-
hopeful for Squadron, but I'm not believing in it coming out this year as much as I was a couple months ago. A couple months ago, I was like,
mhm.
oh yeah, no, for sure, Squadron's coming out this year. Oh yeah, no, it's so totally coming out.
Uh, being yeah, for me being a quarter into the year already with no official like message or sign
Or a
off
third
date.
of the year in,
Yeah.
or
Well,
a
yeah. I
third,
mean,
third of the
eh,
year in.
pretty close to a third. Yeah. So I mean, just being that far into the year and not having an official word is concerning to me. I don't think it's this year. To me, I'm pushing it to beginning of 2027, first quarter, second quarter, 2027. We'll see. But when 4.8 comes out, if they've got the big mission, multifaceted mission with the ships and all that, all the different roles to play, I'll more than likely reinstall and go and play that. But I don't know. Depends on what changes that they make to mining and refining and crafting. If I'll be sticking around very long, if at all, for that. So,
Yeah, I hope they rebalance that out a little bit. Already just from
but yeah.
4.7.2 and then 4.8. That's
Mhm.
that's something that really has to change. Um, yeah, there's different avenues they can follow or go down to try and fix it. I just hope they pick
Mhm.
one at least and they don't do the whole, well, no, this is what we think is the best. It's like, well, no, it's not. Some people may like it. I'm
Yeah.
happy for them, but
Yeah.
I honestly don't think everybody's
And
thinking about down the line far enough. You've been playing the game for 2 months, you've been mining, and now you have 225 pages of inventory to go through to find that ore
yeah.
you were looking for.
Bring that quality of
So
life
yeah.
stuff to the game that you're missing, and go to those people that are making the third party tools for those, and see what they're doing and how they're doing it. Maybe bring them in, whatever it is, consult them and see. what it is that they're providing for the community and see how you can implement that into the game so people don't have to go to a third party site to enjoy your game.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, and
Okay.
then it's speed up the process, allow people to explore the game and respect their time so they can go through the gameplay loops that you have implemented and you can get more data on what's breaking and what's not.
Because we all know people don't play PTU as much. We're tired of it. Evo
Hmm.
is a very limited group of incredibly dedicated human beings who all deserve our applause.
Hmm.
And then you know what? Take some of that 150 million. You know what? Take a million for this next year. Hire 9 people. Okay, pay them a reasonable salary that should give you enough for your P and W. You know, all your costs covered, and just have them be your freaking Q&A guys. From like, I think if there actually is Q&A at Star Citizen right now, or sorry, at CIG, they're probably
Hmm.
all working on Squadron. Fair,
Yeah.
but just hire an extra 10 people. There needs to be a dedicated group that helps out Evocati, gets to things before Evocati. You know, they say they have Q&A, but honestly, like, you've got me fooled. Like, it's just, I kind of think I still go back to get rid of all the waves, have one PTU wave, have Evo, PTU, live. I think it'll do better. Get rid of the whole subscription thing of you get access to wave one. I got rid of it. I don't care about that anymore. I think a lot of people will slowly stop caring about that. I
Hmm.
think the longer you're in the game, the less time you know, or at least for me, the more I understood, it's like, well, PTU is great and all, but I'm gonna be doing the same thing in live, so why do the PTU on top of it?
Yep.
So, yeah, I again, you know, not trying to just, I'm not here to bash, but we're here to hopefully give some constructive criticism to vent also a little bit at times because it does get frustrating, you know, like. And
Very
again,
much
just
so.
want to reiterate, we love this project. We support it, but we support what you're hopefully going to bring us, and not what we have now. At least that's how I
Mm.
feel about it. I would love to be able to reverse that statement and be like, I'm here because what's going on right now is just tits. But it's not. It's not.
Tits McGee.
It's not.
Uh, yeah.
All right.
So,
Thank you very much, Cody. I really appreciate you coming on and doing this. I know this was a long one.
mhm.
Um, but yeah, everybody, please go show Cody some love. He's a fantastic streamer.
Appreciate you having me on and inviting me again. These are always fun, and as always, I'm looking forward to the next time I get to come on here and complain about Star Citizen.
I'm trying to do more of these. I mean, I want to do one on just not Star Citizen, but gaming
Yeah.
overall. I used to
Oh
do
yeah.
those. I haven't done one of those in a while.
Okay.
So that would be fun. And then, yeah, I'm trying to get these going at least once a month, if not twice a month. So,
Yeah.
yeah, if you're a streamer and you're interested in joining, then just hit me up. We'll figure it out. Again, thank you. I'm hoping to get this up to YouTube a lot quicker than the last two, which took me way too long. But life is a bit more relaxed. Work isn't as stressful, so I should have more time. And then, yeah, if you're interested in Armor or Forger, come into the Discord. I've got 2 servers running right now. One is kind of always like a testing shit out. So it's on Daisy right now, but that's a bit of a mess. It's like Daisy with no zombies. So I don't know what broke. I got to figure it out.
Get it.
And then I'm creating my own stuff. And then there's always a conflict server that's running. And you can kind of RP in that. If you like being a medic, we have room for you. If you like being support, we have room for you. And yeah, it's always good to have something to play other than just one game, which I think is unhealthy in the end. For being
Right.
honest. So,
Yeah.
all
No.
right,
I like to diversify a little bit, so I feel you in that. And
it's
yeah, guys,
important.
get over there, check out his server. I got to give props to Late Tired for setting up the Armor server. I've been participating in Arma Mondays, having an awesome time with Arma. It is a good time with friends. So yeah, get over there, get on his server, show him some love, get in there, play, have some fun. We're having a really good time over there.
And it's always up. So, and it's free 99. All right, everybody.
Mhm.
Thanks so much. Let's figure out who we're going to go raid.